Daniel Hayes didn't expect much from the stranded woman on that mountain road until she looked at him like she'd seen a ghost. He helped her, refused her money, and drove away thinking that was the end of it. But for Olivia Grant, powerful CEO with everything except what she wanted most, it was only the beginning. She'd found the man she lost 15 years ago, the one who didn't remember her at all. Now she's back in his small town, standing between his carefully built walls and a daughter who's watching her every move, waiting for her to leave like everyone else. Some reunions don't fix the past. They shatter everything you thought you knew. If you want to see where this story goes, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The wrench slipped. Daniel Hayes caught it before it hit the concrete floor of his garage, muscle memory saving him from the clang that would have woken his daughter upstairs. 8:15 on a Saturday morning meant Emma was still asleep, curled up with that stuffed rabbit she refused to admit she still needed at 8 years old. He could give her another half hour before the pancakes. The Ford pickup in front of him was a mess. Transmission shot, owner too broke to fix it properly but too proud to admit it. Daniel knew the type. Hell, he was the type. He wiped his hands on a rag that had seen better days and ducked back under the chassis, letting the familiar smell of oil and metal ground him. This was his world now. Small, manageable, safe. The sound of an engine cut through the quiet. High performance, expensive, completely wrong for Route 9 on a Saturday morning. Daniel didn't look up. Rich folks got lost on mountain roads all the time, usually on their way to some resort up north, too busy with their GPS to notice they'd taken a wrong turn 3 miles back. They'd figure it out. The engine cut off. A car door opened, closed. Silence. He gave it 30 seconds before curiosity won. When he rolled out from under the truck, he saw her standing in the open bay door, and something in his chest went tight for reasons he couldn't name. She was maybe 30, dark hair pulled back, wearing clothes that probably cost more than his mortgage payment. Everything about her screamed city, the way she stood, the way she looked at his garage like it was a museum exhibit. But her face was pale, and there was something in her eyes that looked like panic barely held in check. "Help you?" Daniel said, getting to his feet. She blinked, and the panic smoothed over, professional mask sliding into place. "My car stopped. I'm not sure what happened." He looked past her to the silver luxury sedan sitting in his driveway like a spaceship that had landed in the wrong decade. European. Knew enough that the plates still had that dealer shine. Stopped how? Just stopped. All the lights came on, and then nothing. Daniel grabbed a cleaner rag and wiped his hands, already mentally running through the possibilities. "You run out of gas?" The look she gave him could have frozen water. No. Had to ask. He walked past her, catching a whiff of expensive perfume that didn't belong anywhere near motor oil. The car was still warm when he popped the hood. He expected something complicated. These new models were more computer than engine, but what he found was almost insulting in its simplicity. "Battery terminal's loose," he said. "Probably been vibrating itself free for a while. One good bump and it lost connection." She came to stand beside him, looking at the engine like it might bite her. "Is that fixable?" "Yeah." He glanced at her. "You got someone you can call? Boyfriend? Husband?" "No." The word came too fast. "I mean, I'm alone. Is it expensive?" Daniel pulled his socket wrench from his belt. "Take me about 2 minutes." He didn't wait for permission, just reached in and tightened the terminal until it was snug. The whole time he could feel her watching him, and it made his shoulders tense in a way that had nothing to do with the work. When he finished, he closed the hood and stepped back. "Try it now." She got in without a word, and the engine turned over smooth as silk. When she stepped back out, she was holding her phone. "What do I owe you?" "Nothing." Her hand stilled. "I'm sorry. It was loose. I tightened it. That's not work. That's just—" He shrugged. "Being decent." She stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. "That's not— Let me pay you." "Don't need it. Everyone needs money." There was something sharp in the way she said it, like she was testing him. Daniel felt his jaw tighten. "Lady, I don't know what kind of people you're used to dealing with, but I didn't do this so you'd owe me something. Your car's fixed. You're welcome." Is. He turned to head back into the garage, done with whatever game this was. But her voice stopped him. Wait. He looked back. She was still standing by her car, and the professional mask had cracked just enough that he could see something raw underneath. Thank you, she said quietly. Really? Daniel nodded, waited for her to get in her car and leave, but she didn't move, just stood there looking at him with an intensity that made warning bells go off in the back of his mind. Do I know you? She asked. Don't think so. You look... She stopped, swallowed. Never mind. Thank you again. This time she did get in the car. Daniel watched her pull away, that expensive engine purring down Route 9 until it disappeared around the bend. He stood there longer than he should have, trying to shake the feeling that something had just shifted in a way he couldn't name. Upstairs, a floorboard creaked. Emma was awake. Daniel pushed the strange encounter out of his mind and went to make pancakes. 3 days later, she came back. Daniel was elbow deep in an engine rebuild when he heard footsteps in the bay. He knew Emma's walk, knew the shuffling gait of old Mr. Peterson, who brought his Buick in religiously every 3 months, whether it needed it or not. These footsteps were different, purposeful. He didn't need to look up to know who it was. Car trouble again? He asked, not stopping his work. No. A pause. I wanted to thank you properly. Now he did look up. She was dressed down this time, jeans, a sweater that probably still cost more than his truck, but at least tried to blend in. She was holding a bakery box. Already thanked me, Daniel said. I brought coffee cake from the bakery on Main Street. Don't need cake. Everyone needs cake. Despite himself, he almost smiled. Almost. You stalking me? I asked around town. Found out you have a daughter. Thought she might like it. That got his attention. Daniel set down his wrench and stood, and he didn't bother hiding the edge in his voice. How much asking around did you do? She had the grace to look uncomfortable. Not, I just wanted to do something nice. By asking strangers about my kid? I'm sorry, that came out wrong. She set the box down on his workbench. I'm Olivia Grant, and I wasn't stalking you. I wanted to say thank you, that's all. Daniel studied her. In the better light of his garage, he could see details he'd missed before. The fine lines around her eyes, the way she held herself like someone used to being in control but working hard to appear casual. There was something familiar about her that nagged at him, but he couldn't place it. Daniel, he said finally. Hayes. I know. She caught his expression and added quickly, the woman at the diner told me, when I asked where to find a good mechanic. That tracked. Betty Ann at the diner would have given his full life story to anyone who asked. What do you really want? Olivia's composure cracked again, just for a second. I told you. Yeah, you told me. But people don't drive back to small towns in the middle of nowhere just to deliver cake. So what is it? You need something fixed? Want to offer me a job in the city? What? Nothing. I don't want anything. Her voice went quiet. Is that so hard to believe? Yeah, Daniel thought. It was. In his experience, everyone wanted something. But before he could say so, the door to the apartment upstairs banged open and Emma's voice rang out. Dad, can I have the iPad? For what? Daniel called back. Homework. Nice try. It's Saturday. Emma appeared at the top of the stairs, all wild brown hair and suspicious eyes. Those eyes landed on Olivia and narrowed. Who's that? Customer, Daniel said. Go find something to do. Is she your girlfriend? Emma? What? I'm just asking. But she was already retreating, throwing one more curious glance over her shoulder before the door closed. When Daniel looked back, Olivia's expression had gone soft in a way that made his chest tight again. She looks like you, she said. Got my ex-wife's attitude, though. Ex-wife? Widow. The word still tasted wrong. 3 years, and it still felt like a lie. Like Sarah was just away somewhere and would come back any minute to tell him he'd put Emma's hair in a ponytail wrong again. Cancer, about 3 years ago. I'm sorry. And she said it like she meant it, which somehow made it worse. Daniel picked up his wrench, needing something to do with his hands. Look, I appreciate the cake or whatever, but I've got work to do. So if there's nothing else, have coffee with me. He stared at her. What? Coffee. Tomorrow. Just an hour. She was trying to sound casual and failing badly at it. I'm in town for a few days and I don't know anyone, and you seem... I'd like to talk to you. That's all. Every instinct Daniel had was screaming at him to say no. This woman was trouble. He could feel it in his bones. She was from a different world, the kind of world that had chewed him up once already, and he'd built his whole life around making sure it never got the chance again. But there was something in the way she looked at him, something desperate and hopeful and terrified all at once. 1 hour, he heard himself say. And you're buying. The Bluebird Cafe was the only decent coffee shop in town, tucked between the hardware store and the library. Daniel arrived exactly on time because he'd learned long ago that being late just gave you more time to regret showing up at all. Olivia was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups in front of her. Wasn't sure how you took it, she said when he sat down, and so I got both black and room for cream. Black's fine. He took the cup, grateful for something to hold. You do this often? Coffee with random mechanics? You're not random. Could have fooled me. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Fair enough. I guess this is weird. Little bit. They sat in silence for a moment. Through the window, Daniel could see Main Street going about its Saturday business. Old Mrs. Chen sweeping the sidewalk in front of her antique shop. A couple of teenagers loitering outside the pizza place. His town. His life. And this woman sitting across from him with her expensive watch and her careful words didn't belong anywhere near it. Why are you really here? He asked. Olivia wrapped both hands around her cup. Do you believe in second chances? Oh, depends on what you're asking a second chance at. At getting something right, at not running away when things get hard. She looked up, and there was something raw in her expression that made Daniel's breath catch. Have you ever lost someone and spent years wondering if you could have done something different? Bum. He thought of Sarah, wasting away in that hospital bed while he sat there holding her hand and feeling completely useless. Yeah, I have. Then you know what it's like to carry that weight. What's this got to do with me? Olivia was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. 15 years ago, I knew someone. We were young, 17, 18, just kids, really, and I made a choice that seemed right at the time, but looking back, she shook her head. I've spent 15 years building a life I thought I wanted. Good job, success, everything I was supposed to have, and it's all empty. Daniel felt something cold settle in his stomach. What choice? I left. He asked me to stay, and I left anyway. Told myself it was for the best, that we'd both move on and be better for it. Her eyes met his, and they were bright with unshed tears. But I never moved on. Not really. And when I saw you on that road, when you helped me without asking for anything, without expecting anything, I knew I couldn't let you disappear again. The world tilted. Daniel set his cup down carefully because his hands had started shaking. Again? You don't remember me, do you? He looked at her, really looked. Tried to push past the expensive clothes and the polished exterior to find whoever she'd been 15 years ago. But there was nothing. No flash of recognition, no buried memory surfacing. Just a stranger sitting across from him talking about a past he didn't remember. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. Oak Ridge High. You were a senior. I was a junior. We had English together, and you used to... She stopped, swallowed hard. You really don't remember? Lady, I think you've got me confused with someone else. Your name is Daniel Hayes. You grew up on Maple Street. Your father worked at the lumber mill until it closed. You were going to join the army after graduation because college wasn't an option. Her voice was shaking now. And we used to meet behind the bleachers after school because my parents would have killed me if they knew I was seeing the kid from the wrong side of town. Daniel stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. Half the cafe turned to look, but he didn't care. His heart was hammering, and his head felt like it was full of static. I don't... He stopped, took a breath. I need to go. Daniel, please. I don't know you. I don't know what kind of game this is, but I don't know you. He was out the door before she could respond, walking fast down Main Street with no destination in mind except away. His truck was parked outside the garage, and he got in and just sat there, gripping the steering wheel and trying to breathe. Oak Ridge High. Yeah, he'd gone there. Yeah, his father had worked at the mill. But the rest of it, meeting behind bleachers, some girl whose parents didn't approve, that was nothing. A blank space where she said there should be memories. His phone buzzed. Emma, asking if he was bringing lunch. He texted back a quick yes and started the engine, forcing his hands to steady. It was nothing, some kind of mistake or delusion or something. It had to be. But as he drove home, he couldn't shake the look in her eyes when she'd said those words. Again. Bant. Emma knew something was wrong the second he walked through the door. What happened? She asked, looking up from her homework at the kitchen table. Nothing. You want grilled cheese? You said you were getting lunch. Changed my mind. She watched him with those two smart eyes as he pulled out the pan and butter. Was it that lady? Did she do something? No, drop it, Em. But I said drop it. Emma's face shut down, and Daniel immediately felt like garbage. She turned back to her homework without another word, shoulders tight. He wanted to apologize, to explain that he wasn't mad at her, that his head was just full of things he couldn't make sense of. But the words wouldn't come. They ate in silence. Emma finished first and disappeared upstairs without asking to be excused. Daniel sat at the table staring at his half-eaten sandwich and wondering what the hell he was supposed to do with any of this. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. I'm staying at the Riverside Inn if you want to talk. No pressure. Olivia. He should delete it. Block the number. Forget this whole weird day ever happened. But his thumb hovered over the delete button and wouldn't press down. 15 years ago. He'd been a different person 15 years ago. Angry, aimless, counting down the days until he could get out of this dead-end town. The army had seemed like salvation, a way out, a purpose, something bigger than his father's disappointment and his mother's quiet resignation. He'd enlisted the day after graduation and never looked back. Until Sarah. They'd met at a bar in Virginia, both of them young and stupid and looking for something to hold on to. She got pregnant 4 months later, and Daniel had done the right thing because that's what you did. They'd gotten married at the courthouse with 2 random witnesses pulled in from the hallway. Emma was born 6 months later, and everything else fell away except making sure his daughter had a better life than he'd had. When Sarah got sick, he'd left the army to take care of her. They'd ended up back in the town he'd sworn he'd never return to because it was cheap, and Sarah's medical bills were not. She died on a Tuesday. He still remembered the way the light came through the hospital window. That was his past. There wasn't room in it for some girl he didn't remember, some story that didn't fit. But what if it was true? He waited until Emma was asleep before he pulled out his old yearbook. It was shoved in the back of his closet under a box of Sarah's things he hadn't been able to get rid of yet. The spine was cracked, pages yellowed, full of signatures from people he'd forgotten the second he left town. Daniel flipped to the junior class photos and started scanning faces. It took him 3 passes before he found her. Olivia Grant, the caption read. Debate team. Honor Society. Future Business Leaders of America. She looked different, younger, obviously, and her hair was longer, pulled back in a ponytail. But it was her. Same eyes, same set to her jaw. He didn't remember her. Daniel flipped through the rest of the yearbook looking for, he didn't know what. Proof. Evidence. Something to make her story make sense. But there was nothing. No photos of them together. No shared activities. His senior year had been a blur of working after school and avoiding home and counting down to freedom. If they'd been together, if it had been serious, wouldn't he remember? He snapped the yearbook shut and shoved it back in the closet. This was insane. She was clearly confused or mistaken or... His phone rang. Unknown number again. He should let it go to voicemail. Instead, he answered, Yeah? It's me. Olivia's voice was quiet. I know you're probably angry, not angry, confused. I can explain, if you'll let me. Daniel looked at the clock. Almost midnight. Emma was asleep upstairs, and he was sitting on his bedroom floor with a yearbook full of ghosts and a stranger on the phone claiming to know his past better than he did. "Talk," he said. She took a breath. "We met in September of your senior year. I was new. My family had just moved to town for my father's work. You sat behind me in Mrs. Morrison's English class, and you were the only person who didn't treat me like I was invisible." Despite himself, Daniel closed his eyes and tried to remember. Mrs. Morrison. Yeah. She'd been about 100 years old and obsessed with Shakespeare. He'd hated that class. "We started talking," Olivia continued. "Just small stuff at first. You'd make jokes about the assignments, and I'd try not to laugh because I was supposed to be serious. But you made me feel like I could be someone other than what my parents wanted, someone real. If this is true, why don't I remember?" "I'm getting there." Her voice cracked slightly. "We started meeting after school, behind the football bleachers where no one would see us. My parents they had plans for me. College, career, everything mapped out. And you were planning to enlist. We both knew it couldn't last. So what happened?" Silence. Then, "You asked me to wait for you. Said when you came back from basic training, we'd figure it out, and I promised I would." Daniel's chest felt tight. "But you didn't." "No. My father got promoted. We were moving to Seattle, and I had early admission to Stanford, and it was everything I'd worked for, everything they'd worked for." A pause. "I wrote you a letter, said I couldn't wait, that we wanted different things, that it was better this way. Did I write back?" "No." So quiet he almost didn't hear it. "You never responded. And I told myself that meant you'd moved on, that I'd made the right choice." Daniel opened his eyes and stared at the ceiling, tried to find any piece of this in his memory, and came up empty. "I don't remember any of this." "I know." "So either you're lying, or I've lost a whole chunk of my life, and I don't know which is worse." "I'm not lying." She sounded desperate now. "Daniel, I've spent 15 years trying to forget you, and I couldn't. And then I saw you on that road, and you were exactly the same, helping someone without asking for anything, just being decent. And I knew I'd been running from the one real thing I'd ever had. This is crazy. I know. I have a daughter. I have a life here. I can't." He stopped, took a breath. "I can't do this. I understand." But she sounded like she was crying. "I'll leave tomorrow. I'm sorry I disrupted everything. I had to try." She hung up before he could respond. Daniel sat there in the dark, phone in hand, and tried to make sense of anything. But the pieces wouldn't fit. He'd built his whole adult life on being the guy who showed up, who kept his promises, who didn't run when things got hard. And now this woman was telling him he'd forgotten a promise he'd made, a person he'd cared about, a whole piece of himself. What else had he forgotten? He didn't sleep. By the time Emma woke up the next morning, Daniel had gone through every box in his closet, looking for something. Letters, photos, anything that proved Olivia's story. He found nothing. Either it never existed or he'd thrown it away when Sarah came into his life. Both options felt like betrayal. "You look terrible," Emma said at breakfast. "Thanks, kid." "Seriously, did you sleep?" "Some." He pushed eggs around his plate. Do you remember much about your mom?" Emma's expression got careful. She always went still when they talked about Sarah, like she was afraid of breaking something. "Some things? Why?" "What things?" "I remember she smelled like vanilla, and she used to sing off-key, and she made you laugh." Emma picked at her toast. "Why are you asking?" "Just wondering if memories fade, if you can lose things that were important." "That's depressing, Dad." "Yeah, sorry, Ots." They finished breakfast in silence. Daniel washed the dishes while Emma got dressed for her friend's birthday party. He was supposed to drop her off at noon, which gave him exactly 2 hours to figure out what he was doing. The Riverside Inn was on the edge of town, a converted Victorian that catered to the occasional tourist passing through. Daniel had never been inside. He pulled into the parking lot at 10:30 and sat in his truck trying to decide if this was the stupidest thing he'd ever done. Probably. But he got out anyway. The woman at the front desk told him Olivia was in room 7. Daniel climbed the stairs and stood outside the door for a solid minute before knocking. She answered still in pajamas, eyes red like she'd been crying. When she saw him, something in her expression crumbled. "You came," she said. "Yeah, can we talk?" She stepped back to let him in. The room was neat, bed made, suitcase by the door like she really was planning to leave. Olivia sat on the edge of the bed while Daniel took the chair by the window. "I don't remember you," he said without preamble. "I've tried. I went through my yearbook and you're in there, but I don't remember you. Any of it. I know. So help me understand, because right now you're asking me to believe I lived this whole other life that I've completely forgotten, and that doesn't make sense." Olivia twisted her hands together. "What do you remember from that year? Working, school, being angry all the time, wanting to leave. Anything else?" Daniel tried to think, but it was like looking through fog, shapes and impressions, nothing solid. "Not really. It was a long time ago." "Were you drinking?" The question caught him off guard. "What? I'm not judging. You were going through something that year. Your father had lost his job. Things at home were bad. And sometimes after we'd meet, you'd smell like alcohol." He says. Daniel's jaw tightened. Yeah, that tracked. He'd spent most of his senior year drunk or hungover, trying to numb out the sound of his parents fighting. It wasn't something he was proud of. "So what? I was too wasted to remember you?" "Maybe. Or maybe you chose not to." She met his eyes. "I hurt you when I left, and maybe forgetting me was easier than dealing with it." Baish says. He wanted to argue, but the horrible thing was it made a kind of sense. He'd gotten good at compartmentalizing, at shoving down anything that hurt too much to examine. The army had reinforced that skill. Sarah and Emma had given him a reason to lock that old life away and never look back. "Why now?" he asked. "Why come back after 15 years? Because I saw you on that road, and I realized I'd built my whole life trying to become someone who didn't need anyone. And I've succeeded. I run a company, I'm powerful, I have everything I thought I wanted." Her voice broke. "And I'm completely alone. And when you helped me and drove away like it was nothing, I knew I'd spent 15 years running from the only person who ever made me feel real." Daniel stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Main Street was waking up. Betty Ann opening the diner. Mr. Chen setting up his hardware displays. His town. His safe, small, manageable life. "I can't be what you're looking for," he said. "I'm not asking you to be anything. I'm asking for a chance to know you again. The man you are now. Not the boy I remember." He turned to look at her. She was still sitting on the bed, and she looked so hopeful and terrified that something in his chest ached. "I have a daughter who's been through enough," Daniel said. "I can't bring someone into her life who's going to leave when things get complicated. I won't. You don't know that. You run a company in Seattle or wherever. You have a whole life there, and this is my life." He gestured at the window. "This town, this garage, Emma. That's it. That's all I've got. What if I want that too?" "You don't. You think you do because you're lonely or nostalgic or whatever this is, but you don't know me, and I don't know you." Olivia stood up, walked over to him, and before Daniel could step back, she reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were cold. "Then let me get to know you," she said quietly. "Let me prove I'm not running. That I'm here because I choose to be, not because I'm chasing some memory. Why does it matter so much? Because you're the only man who ever helped me without wanting something in return. And if I walk away now, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if I gave up on the only real thing I ever had a second time." Daniel looked down at their joined hands. He should pull away. Should tell her to leave and never come back. Should protect his daughter and himself from whatever mess this was going to become. But when he opened his mouth, what came out was 1 week. Olivia's breath caught. "What?" "You've got 1 week. You stay in town, we spend time together, and at the end of it, if this is still what you want, we'll talk. But if you change your mind, if you decide this isn't what you thought, you leave. No drama, no drawn-out goodbye. Just gone." 1 week, she repeated. "And Emma comes first. If she's uncomfortable, if this affects her, it's over. Deal? Deal. They stood there for another moment, hands still linked, and Daniel tried to figure out what he'd just agreed to. Probably a mistake. Definitely a risk. But looking at Olivia, at the hope in her eyes and the determination in the set of her jaw, he thought maybe, just maybe, it was worth finding out. "I have to drop Emma at a birthday party," he said, pulling his hand back. "Meet me at the diner at 2. We'll start there." "Okay." She smiled, and it transformed her whole face. "Thank you." Daniel just nodded and left before he could change his mind. As he walked down the stairs and out to his truck, he tried to ignore the voice in the back of his head saying he was making a huge mistake. But maybe mistakes were how you found your way back to something real. Emma was quiet on this drive to the party. Too quiet. Daniel knew that silence, it meant she was working up to something. "Spill it," he said. "What?" "Whatever you're thinking so loud I can hear it." She picked at the ribbon on the birthday present in her lap. "Are you going to see that lady again?" "Maybe." "Why?" "I don't know. She seems weird." "Weird how?" "Oh, like she's trying too hard. Like those people at school who want to be your friend, but you know they're just being nice because the teacher told them to." Daniel glanced over at his daughter, 8 years old and already too smart for her own good. "You don't want me to see her?" Emma shrugged. "I didn't say that." I just don't want—" She stopped, started over. "When Mom died, you said we'd be okay. Just the two of us. And we are okay, right?" Daniel's throat went tight. "Yeah, kiddo, we're okay. So we don't need anyone else." He pulled into the parking lot of the community center and put the truck in park, turned to really look at his daughter. She was staring straight ahead, jaw set, eyes a little too bright. "You're right," he said. "We don't need anyone else. But that doesn't mean we can't want someone else in our lives. Not to replace Mom. No one could do that. But maybe to add something, to make things less lonely." Ashi Batiet. "You're lonely. Sometimes, aren't you?" Emma finally looked at him. "Sometimes I pretend Mom's just at the store, that she'll come back and everything will be normal again. Yeah, I do that too." They sat in silence for a moment. Through the window, Daniel could see other kids arriving with presents, parents chatting. Normal life happening all around them while they sat in this bubble of grief that never quite went away. "If you want to see her, it's okay," Emma said finally. If she's going to leave, I don't want you to be sad." Daniel reached over and ruffled her hair, even though she hated it. "Deal. Now go have fun and eat too much cake." She rolled her eyes, but smiled as she got out. Daniel watched her disappear into the community center before he drove away, and he tried not to think about all the ways this week could go wrong. Olivia was already at the diner when he arrived, sitting in a booth by the window. She'd changed into jeans and a simple blue sweater, hair down around her shoulders. She looked almost normal, almost like she belonged. "Hi," she said when he slid into the seat across from her. "Hi." Betty Ann appeared with coffee before Daniel could say anything else. Well, Daniel Hayes on a date. Never thought I'd see the day." "It's not—" "Looks like a date to me. You want your usual?" "Oh, just coffee, Betty." "Suit yourself." She winked at Olivia. "He's a good one. Better hold on to him." When she was gone, Olivia smiled. She's subtle. As a brick through a window, Daniel wrapped his hands around the coffee mug. "So, week starts now. What do you want to know?" "Everything. But we can start small." She leaned forward. "Why'd you become a mechanic?" "Needed a job. Was good with my hands." "That's not an answer." Daniel sighed. "In the Army, I worked on vehicles. Kept us running when everything else fell apart. When I came back here with Emma, it was the one skill I had that this town needed. So I fixed cars. Built it into a business. Not glamorous, but it's mine. Do you like it?" "Like it?" "The work. Does it make you happy?" Daniel had to think about that. "I don't know if happy's the right word. It's satisfying. Solving problems. Making things work again. Yeah, I guess I like it." Olivia smiled. "You always liked fixing things. I remember—" She stopped. "Sorry, I keep doing that." "No, it's—" Tell me, if we knew each other, I want to hear it. She hesitated, then continued. You used to fix things for people all the time. Mrs. Morrison's overhead projector, the janitor's cart. Once you spent a whole Saturday fixing the timing belt on my dad's car, even though he would have killed you if he knew you'd been near me. Die Ausrichts. Did he ever find out? No, I got good at lying. She said it matter-of-factly, no shame. Had to. My parents had this whole life planned for me, and none of it included a mechanic's son from a dying town. So what happened after you left? You went to Stanford. Yeah, got my MBA. Worked my way up through corporate, started my own consulting firm 5 years ago. We specialize in turning around failing companies. She stirred her coffee. I'm good at it. Cutting costs, restructuring, making hard decisions. I've saved a lot of jobs. But nothing feels real. I go into a company. I fix it. I move on. No relationships, no connections, just transactions. She met his eyes. I'm 30 years old. She met his, and the only person who'd notice if I disappeared is my assistant. That can't be true. It is. I made it true. I chose this life because I thought success would fill the empty spaces. But it doesn't. It just makes them wider. Daniel didn't know what to say to that. He'd never had that kind of success to regret. His life had always been small and immediate. Emma, work, bills, the daily grind of keeping it all together. The idea of having everything and feeling nothing seemed impossibly distant. What about you? Olivia asked. After the army, after Sarah, what was that like? Oh, pissy. Hard. The word came out rougher than he intended. She got sick 6 months after Emma was born. Breast cancer. We fought it for 2 years before we couldn't anymore. And then it was just me and Emma trying to figure out how to keep going. I'm sorry. Me too. Daniel took a drink of coffee. But we managed. She was a good mom, and she loved Emma. That's what matters. Did you love her? The question was too personal, too sharp. But Olivia's eyes were steady, and Daniel found himself answering honestly. I did. Not like poetry or movies, but real. She was my partner, my friend. We built something together, and when she died, part of that died too. But not all of it. Emma's still here, and she's the best thing I ever did. Olivia's expression went soft. You're a good father. I tried. They sat in silence for a while, and it was surprisingly comfortable. Outside the window, the town moved at its slow pace. Eventually, Betty Ann came back with more coffee and a knowing smile that Daniel ignored. So, Olivia said, 1 week, what happens next? Next you tell me what you do for fun besides run companies. She laughed. I don't know if I remember how to have fun. Then we'll have to figure it out together. And despite all his reservations, despite the warning bells still ringing in the back of his mind, Daniel found himself smiling. Maybe this week wouldn't fix anything. Maybe it was just a strange detour before they both went back to their separate lives. But for the first time in 3 years, he felt something other than the weight of responsibility. He felt curious, and that, Daniel thought, was worth at least a week of his time. The week started with small things. Monday, Olivia showed up at the garage around noon with sandwiches from the deli. Daniel was replacing brake pads on a Honda Civic, and she sat on an overturned crate watching him work, asking questions that showed she was actually listening to the answers. She didn't flinch when he wiped grease on his jeans or when he swore at a stubborn bolt. She just sat there, comfortable in the silence between words, and that alone was strange enough to make Daniel wonder what he'd gotten himself into. Tuesday, he took her to the lake on the edge of town. It was early April, still too cold for swimming, but the water was calm and the trees were just starting to bud. They sat on the dock with their feet dangling over the edge, and Olivia told him about Seattle, the rain that never stopped, the coffee shops on every corner, the apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city and made her feel like she was floating above real life. Sounds lonely, Daniel said. It is. She picked up a stone and tossed it into the water, but I convinced myself it was what success looked like, being above it all. And now? Now I think I was just scared. Easier to stay up there than come down and risk getting hurt again. Daniel understood that better than he wanted to admit. After Sarah died, He'd built walls so high even Emma had trouble getting through sometimes. Safe felt better than vulnerable. Alone felt better than abandoned. Wednesday. Emma came home from school and found Olivia sitting at the kitchen table helping Daniel sort through a mountain of receipts for tax season. She stopped in the doorway, backpack sliding off one shoulder, and her eyes went suspicious. "What's she doing here?" Emma asked. "Helping," Daniel said. "Say hi." "Hi." Emma didn't move. "Why are you helping?" Olivia looked up and smiled, but it was careful. "Your dad mentioned he hated paperwork. I'm good at it. Seemed like a fair trade for all the coffee he's bought me this week." "He bought you coffee?" "3 times. I'm starting to think he's trying to impress me." Despite herself, Emma's mouth twitched. "He drinks it black, like a psychopath." "I noticed. I'm trying not to judge." "Good luck with that." The exchange was light, almost teasing, but Daniel saw the way Emma kept her distance, the way she watched Olivia like she was waiting for something to crack. He wanted to pull his daughter aside and explain, except he didn't know what he'd explain. That Olivia might have known him in another life? That he was trying to figure out if the past mattered when you couldn't remember it? That he was tired of being alone but terrified of letting someone in? Instead, he said, "Em, you want a snack? I'm going to Macy's house." Emma was already heading for the door. "Her mom said I could stay for dinner. Call me when you want pickup." "Okay." She paused at the door and looked back at Olivia. "Don't mess up his taxes. We already don't have enough money." Then she was gone, door slamming behind her. Olivia winced. "She hates me." She doesn't hate you. She's protecting me." "From what?" Daniel met her eyes. "From getting hurt. She's seen me fall apart once. She doesn't want to see it again." "I'm not going to hurt you." "You don't know that. Neither do I." He went back to sorting receipts. "But that's the risk, isn't it?" Olivia was quiet for a long time. Then she picked up another stack of papers and said, "These are out of order. Want me to reorganize by date?" And just like that, they went back to work. Thursday, Daniel took her to the farmer's market that's set up in the town square every week. It wasn't much, a dozen vendors selling vegetables and homemade soap and questionable pottery, but Olivia moved through it like she'd discovered a new country. She bought honey from Mrs. Peterson and got into a 15-minute conversation about beekeeping. She sampled 3 kinds of cheese and ended up buying a wheel of something she couldn't pronounce. She laughed at Daniel when he refused to try the kombucha and called him a coward. "You fix cars for a living," she said. "How are you scared of fermented tea?" "I know what's in a car. That stuff could be anything. It's probiotics." That's not reassuring. She bought 2 bottles anyway and made him carry them. As they walked back to his truck, Daniel realized people were staring. Betty Ann from the diner, Mr. Chen from the hardware store, half of Emma's teachers. Small towns didn't keep secrets, and by tomorrow everyone would know Daniel Hayes was seeing someone. The thought should have bothered him. Instead, he found he didn't care. Friday. Olivia asked if she could watch him work. Really work. Not just sit in the garage, but actually see what he did. Daniel raised an eyebrow, but didn't argue. He had a full day, oil changes, a transmission rebuild, diagnostic on a check engine light that turned out to be a loose gas cap. Olivia stayed the whole time, asking questions, handing him tools when he needed them, learning the difference between a socket wrench and a torque wrench. Around 3, she said, "You're good at this." Sorry. Daniel was under a Subaru, so she couldn't see his face. "It's just cars." "No, I mean, you care about it. Getting it right. Making sure it's safe. You could cut corners, charge more, do half the work. But you don't. That's just being decent. Most people aren't." He rolled out from under the car and looked up at her. "In my experience, most people are trying their best with what they've got. Sometimes their best isn't great, but they're trying. That's a nice way to see the world." That's a nice way to see the... What's your way? Olivia leaned against the workbench. "I see leverage, weakness, what people want and what they'll do to get it. I've built a career on reading people and using that information to my advantage. Sounds exhausting." "It is." She smiled, but it was sad. "And it means I don't trust anyone, including myself." Daniel stood up and wiped his hands. "So why are you here? If you don't trust yourself, why come back?" Because for the first time in 15 years, I want to be wrong about something. I want to believe people can change, that second chances exist, that I'm not just, her voice cracked, that I'm not just broken. He didn't think, just crossed the space between them and pulled her into his arms. Olivia went stiff for a second, then melted against him, and Daniel realized this was the first time he'd held someone since Sarah died. The first time he'd let himself be this close to another person. It should have felt wrong. Instead, it felt like coming up for air after being underwater too long. "You're not broken," he said into her hair. "You're just scared. What if I can't do this? What if I... Then we'll figure it out, together." She pulled back enough to look at him, and there were tears on her face. "Why are you being nice to me? I showed up out of nowhere claiming we had this past you don't remember. I disrupted your whole life. You should have told me to leave." Probably. Daniel brushed a tear off her cheek with his thumb. "But I didn't. And maybe that means something." "What?" "I don't know yet, but I want to find out." They stood like that for a moment, close enough that Daniel could count the flecks of gold in her eyes, close enough that he could kiss her if he wanted to. And he wanted to, which scared him more than anything else this week. He stepped back. "I should finish this car." Olivia nodded, wiping her face. "Right. Yeah, I'll be over here." The moment passed, but something had shifted. Daniel felt it in the air between them, in the way Olivia watched him work, in the careful space they kept. The week was almost over, and neither of them had mentioned what came next. Saturday morning, Emma woke up with a fever. Daniel found her curled up in bed, face flushed, complaining that her throat hurt. He felt her forehead and swore under his breath. Probably strep. Half her class had it, which meant a trip to urgent care, antibiotics, and a weekend of keeping her comfortable while she felt miserable. He was about to text Olivia to cancel their plans when his phone rang, her name on the screen. "Hey," he answered. "I was just going to call you." "Everything okay?" "It's Emma's sick. I need to take her to get checked out. Rain check on today?" A pause. "Can I come with you?" Daniel stopped. "To urgent care?" "If that's okay. I don't know, keep you company, or stay with Emma while you deal with paperwork. Whatever helps." He should say no. Should keep this separate from his daughter. Protect Emma from getting attached to someone who might leave. But the offer wasn't performative or pushy. It was just there. An option, if he wanted it. "Yeah," he heard himself say. "That'd be good." Olivia met them at the urgent care in town, arriving with a bag from the pharmacy that she handed to Emma without fanfare. Inside were throat lozenges, a coloring book, and a small stuffed elephant. Emma looked at the elephant, then at Olivia. "Why?" "I had strep when I was your age. It sucks. The elephant helped." "This isn't the same elephant." "No, but he's the same species. I checked." Despite the fever, Emma almost smiled. "That's dumb." "Agreed, but you're keeping him anyway." They sat in the waiting room for 40 minutes while Daniel filled out forms and tried not to think about medical bills. Olivia sat next to Emma, not trying to force conversation, just being there. At one point, she pulled out her phone and showed Emma something that made her laugh. Actually laugh, not the polite version she used with adults she didn't trust. When they finally saw the doctor, it was strep, as expected. Daniel got the prescription and carried a sleepy Emma back to the truck, while Olivia walked beside them. "Thank you," he said, "for coming. You didn't have to. I wanted to. Still, it means something." Back home, Emma fell asleep on the couch with the stuffed elephant clutched to her chest. Daniel covered her with a blanket and found Olivia in the kitchen making tea. "She's out," he said. "Good. Sleep helps." Olivia handed him a mug. "How are you doing?" "I'm fine. This is just parenthood. She gets sick, I deal with it." "But you do it alone." "Yeah, that's the deal." Olivia leaned against the counter. "It doesn't have to be." Daniel's chest went tight. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying..." She stopped, started over. "The week's almost up, and I don't want to leave." "Olivia!" I'm sorry, Simone." "I know what we agreed. I know you said 1 week, but I'm not ready to walk away. Not when this is the first time I've felt like myself in 15 years. You have a company, a life in Seattle. You can't just, why not? Her eyes were fierce now. I built that life because I thought it was what I was supposed to want. But it's empty. And I'm tired of being empty. So what? You're going to move here? Give up everything you worked for? Maybe. I don't know. But I know I want to try. She set down her tea and crossed to him. Daniel, I'm not asking you to fix me or save me or promise me forever. I'm just asking for more time. To see where this goes. To figure out if we can build something real. And when you get bored, when small town life stops being charming and starts being suffocating, then I'll tell you, and we'll deal with it, but I won't run. Not this time. Daniel wanted to believe her, wanted to think this could work, that someone like Olivia could fit into his life without destroying it. But he'd been disappointed too many times, had learned the hard way that people left, whether they meant to or not. I can't risk Emma getting hurt, he said quietly. If you're going to bail, do it now, before she gets attached. She's already attached. So am I. Olivia's voice went soft. And I think you are too. That's what scares you. She was right. He was terrified of wanting this, of letting someone in, of building something that could fall apart and leave him picking up pieces again. But he was also tired of being scared. 2 months? He said. What? Stay for 2 months. Not in town. Here. With us. See what it's really like. The boring parts, the hard parts, all of it. And if at the end of 2 months you still want this, we'll figure out the rest. Olivia's eyes went wide. You want me to move in? I want you to see what you're signing up for. Emma's homework struggles and my terrible cooking and the way this house falls apart every other week. I want you to see the reality, not the idea, and then decide. And if I decide I want to stay, then we'll talk about what that looks like. She was quiet for a long moment, and Daniel could see her working through it. The logistics, the risks, the 100 ways this could go wrong. But then she smiled, real and full and unguarded, and said, Okay. 2 months, I'm in. Daniel felt something loosen in his chest. You're crazy. Probably. But so are you for asking. They stood there grinning at each other like idiots until Emma called from the living room that she needed water. The spell broke, and Daniel went to take care of his daughter, while Olivia stayed in the kitchen, and it felt so normal it was almost scary. Later, after Emma was settled back on the couch with her water and her elephant and a cartoon playing low on the TV, Olivia pulled Daniel aside. I need to go back to Seattle, she said. Just for a few days, wrap things up, delegate some projects, pack. Daniel's stomach dropped. When? Tomorrow. But I'll be back by Thursday. I promise. Olivia, I know how this looks, but I'm not running. I'm coming back. He wanted to believe her. Needed to. Okay? Yeah, just call me when you get there. So I know you made it. She kissed his cheek, quick and light. I will. Sunday, she was gone. Daniel woke up to a text that she was at the airport, another when she landed. By Monday, Emma was feeling better, but needed to stay home from school, which meant Daniel juggling work and childcare while trying not to think about whether Olivia was really coming back. Tuesday, Emma asked where Olivia was. Seattle, Daniel said. She'll be back in a couple days. Are you lying? No, Mom used to lie. When she was sick, she'd say she was getting better, but she wasn't. Daniel's throat closed up. I'm not lying, Em. She's coming back. But how do you know? I don't. Not for sure. But I trust her. Emma looked at him with those two old eyes. What if you're wrong? Then I'll be wrong, and we'll deal with it. But I'd rather be wrong about trusting someone than right about never letting anyone in. She thought about that. That's a dumb philosophy. Probably, but it's mine. Wednesday, Olivia called him at midnight. She sounded exhausted. Hey, she said. Did I wake you? No, can't sleep. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything. I'm going through my apartment deciding what to keep, and I don't recognize any of this. The furniture, the art, the clothes. It's like I decorated for someone else's life. So don't keep it. It's not that simple. This stuff is expensive. It means something. Jakakti. Does it? Or is it just stuff you bought because you thought you were supposed to? Silence. Then a shaky laugh. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I just know what matters. And it's not furniture. What is it? People. The ones who show up when things are hard, the ones who stay. I want to be that person. For you. For Emma. Then be that person. The rest is just noise. More silence. Daniel could hear her breathing, could picture her sitting in that expensive apartment surrounded by a life she didn't want anymore. I'm scared, she said finally. Me too. What if I mess this up? Then we'll figure it out. That's what people do. Is it? It's what I'm hoping. She laughed again, lighter this time. I'm coming back Thursday. First flight I could get. I'll pick you up. You don't have to. I want to. Text me the details. Okay? A pause. Daniel? Yeah? Thank you for giving me a chance. Thank you for taking it. They hung up, and Daniel lay in the dark, trying not to overthink what he'd just committed to. 2 months. It sounded like nothing and forever at the same time. Thursday, he left the garage early and drove to the regional airport an hour away. Olivia's flight landed at 4, and he was waiting when she came through arrivals with 2 suitcases and a backpack, looking rumpled and nervous and real. Hi, she said. Hi. Daniel took one of the suitcases. This everything? For now. I shipped some boxes. They should arrive next week. You actually did it. Did you think I wouldn't? Little bit. She punched his arm, light but real. I keep my promises. So you said. They loaded her stuff into the truck and started the drive back. Halfway home, Olivia said, How's Emma? Chippy Better. Still mad at the world, but that's baseline for 8-year-olds. Did you tell her I'm moving in? Not yet. Thought we'd do that together. What if she says no? She won't. How do you know? Daniel glanced over at her. Because she gave you her coloring book to look at in urgent care. That's her favorite one. She doesn't share it with anyone. Olivia's eyes went bright. I didn't realize. Yeah, so she might give you hell, but she's okay with you being around. We'll figure out the rest. When they pulled up to the house, Emma was sitting on the front steps. She stood up when she saw Olivia getting out of the truck, and her face was unreadable. You came back, Emma said. I said I would. People say things. Olivia knelt down so they were eye level. You're right, they do, but I meant it, and I'm going to keep meaning it, even when it's hard. Emma studied her for a long moment. Then she said, You can have the room next to the bathroom, but if you snore, I'm telling Dad to make you sleep in the garage. Deal. Just like that. Olivia was part of their lives. The first week was awkward. Olivia didn't know where anything went in the kitchen. She tried to cook dinner and nearly started a fire. She folded laundry wrong and used the wrong detergent and forgot that Emma hated peas. But she didn't give up. She asked questions, took notes, learned the rhythms of their small, chaotic household. Daniel watched her adapt and wondered how long it would last. How long before the novelty wore off and she remembered she was supposed to be running a company, not doing dishes in a town with one stoplight. But Olivia surprised him. She set up a home office in the spare room and worked remotely, taking video calls with her team while wearing sweatpants and drinking coffee from a mug Emma had made in art class. She joined the PTA, actually joined it, showed up to meetings, volunteered for the spring fundraiser. She learned to make Emma's favorite mac and cheese and didn't complain when Daniel tracked motor oil through the house. She stayed, and slowly, carefully, the three of them started to feel like something real. Emma tested her constantly. Forgot to mention homework until the night before it was due. Left messes everywhere. Asked impossible questions like, why did my mom have to die? And watched Olivia's face for cracks. But Olivia didn't crack. She helped with homework without doing it for Emma. She cleaned up messes without complaint. And when Emma asked about death, she said quietly, I don't know. But I know she loved you. And that love doesn't go away just because someone's gone. Emma had cried then, and Olivia held her, and Daniel watched from the doorway feeling something break open in his chest. 2 weeks in, Daniel found Olivia on the back porch at midnight, staring at her laptop. Everything okay? he asked. She looked up, startled. Yeah, just dealing with a client situation. At midnight? They're on the East Coast. Time zones. Daniel sat down next to her. You don't have to prove anything, you know? What do you mean? Working all the time. Being perfect. I'm not keeping score. Olivia closed the laptop. I don't know how to do this, the balance thing. I've spent 15 years putting work first, and now I want to be here. But I also have responsibilities. So have both. Work when you need to. Be here when you can. We'll figure it out. What if it's not enough? What if it is? She leaned against him and Daniel put his arm around her shoulders. They sat like that for a while, listening to crickets and the distant sound of Route 9, and it felt like peace. 3 weeks in, Emma had a meltdown. It started small, a bad grade on a math test, a fight with her best friend. But it spiraled fast, the way grief always did. Emma locked herself in her room and wouldn't come out, wouldn't talk, wouldn't eat. Daniel tried everything he knew, but nothing worked. Emma just kept saying she wanted her mom. Finally, Olivia knocked on Emma's door. Go away, Emma said. No, I'm coming in. I said go away. Olivia opened the door anyway and sat on the floor next to Emma's bed. You can be mad at me. That's fine. But I'm not leaving. I don't want you here. I know. You want your mom. And I'm not her. I'll never be her. Emma's face crumpled. Then what are you? I'm someone who cares about you. Someone who wants to be here. Not instead of your mom. Just in addition to... That doesn't make sense, doesn't it? You love your dad, right? But you also loved your mom. One doesn't replace the other. They're both real. Emma was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Do you love my dad? Olivia didn't hesitate. Yes. Does he love you? I don't know. You'd have to ask him. I'm asking you. Then I hope so, because I'd really like to stick around. Emma rolled over to look at her. Her face was blotchy and her eyes were red, and she looked so much like Daniel, it hurt. If you leave, it's going to suck. I'm not leaving. You say that now, and I'll keep saying it every day if that's what it takes, until you believe me. Emma studied her. Then she sat up and grabbed the stuffed elephant from her nightstand. You said this helped when you had strep. It did. Does it help with other stuff? Sometimes. Why? Emma held out the elephant. You can borrow him, if you need to. Olivia took the elephant carefully, like it was made of glass. Thank you. Don't mess him up. I won't. That night, Daniel found Olivia in the kitchen crying while she made sandwiches for tomorrow's lunches. What happened? He asked. Emma let me borrow her elephant. And that's bad? No, that's... She wiped her eyes. That's everything. I didn't think she'd ever trust me. Daniel pulled her close. She's a smart kid. She knows when someone's real. I want to be real. For both of you. You are. They stood like that, wrapped up in each other, and Daniel thought about all the ways his life had changed in a month. How Olivia had come in like a storm and settled like steady rain. How Emma was laughing more, fighting less, slowly learning to let someone new into her carefully guarded heart. How the house felt less empty. He thought about Sarah too. About the promise he'd made at her bedside to take care of Emma, to keep going, to not give up. And he thought she'd understand this, would want him to be happy, would want Emma to have more people to love. I love you, he said into Olivia's hair. She went still. What? I love you. I don't know when it happened, but it did. And I'm tired of being scared to say it. Buarshish, vamos. Olivia pulled back to look at him, and her face was a mess of tears and hope. I love you too. I've loved you since I was 17, and I never stopped. Even when you didn't know where I was? Especially then. Daniel kissed her. It was messy and imperfect and tasted like salt from her tears, and it was the best kiss of his life. When they broke apart, they were both smiling. So, Olivia said, does this mean I passed the 2-month trial? You passed it 3 weeks ago. I was just waiting to see if you'd figure it out. That's manipulative. That's me being careful. I can work with careful. They finished making lunches together, and when Daniel went to check on Emma before bed, she was asleep with the elephant tucked under her arm, the one she'd given Olivia but had clearly reclaimed. He smiled and closed the door. Downstairs, Olivia was washing dishes. She looked up when he came in and raised an eyebrow. She took the elephant back. Yeah, that's a good sign. How? Means she's not scared you're going to disappear. She knows you'll give it back when she needs it. Olivia set down the dish she was washing. How do you do that? Read her so well. Practice. And fear. When Sarah died, I had to learn fast. Emma was 5 and she didn't understand why her mom wasn't coming home. I had to figure out what she needed before she knew herself. That must have been terrifying. Still is. Every day I'm convinced I'm screwing her up. You're not. How do you know? Because she's smart and kind and completely herself. You did that. Daniel crossed to her and took her hand. We did that. You, me, Sarah. She's built from all of us. Olivia's eyes filled again. I want to be worthy of that. You already are. They finished the dishes together, and then they sat on the couch and watched terrible reality TV until they fell asleep, tangled up in each other. When Daniel woke up at 3 a.m. with a crick in his neck, Olivia was still there, her head on his shoulder, breathing steady and sure. He thought about the woman who'd shown up on that mountain road, the stranger with the expensive car, and the desperate eyes who'd claimed to know him. And he thought about the woman sleeping next to him now, real and flawed and trying so hard to build something that mattered. They weren't the same person, but maybe that was the point. Maybe second chances weren't about reclaiming the past. Maybe they were about building something new from the broken pieces. Daniel kissed the top of Olivia's head and closed his eyes. Tomorrow, Emma had a science project due. The garage needed new equipment he couldn't afford. Olivia had a conference call with a difficult client. Life would keep happening, messy and complicated and imperfect. But they'd face it together. And that, Daniel thought as he drifted back to sleep, was more than enough. The call came on a Tuesday morning while Daniel was replacing the alternator on a Ford Explorer, and Olivia was upstairs negotiating a contract extension with a manufacturing client in Ohio. Emma was at school, the garage radio was playing classic rock too loud, and everything felt normal until Olivia's footsteps came down the stairs faster than usual. Daniel rolled out from under the car and knew immediately something was wrong. Her face had gone pale, and she was gripping her phone like it might explode. What happened? He asked, getting to his feet. That was Marcus. My COO. Her voice was tight. One of our biggest clients, Meridian Industries. They're threatening to pull their contract. $18 million. If we lose them, we lose 3 other accounts that are tied to their recommendation. Daniel wiped his hands on a rag. Can Marcus handle it? He's trying, but they're demanding I come back. They want me in Seattle by Thursday for an emergency board meeting. They said, she stopped, swallowed. They said if I don't show up personally, they're walking. The words hung in the air between them. Daniel felt something cold settle in his stomach, but he kept his voice level. So go. Just like that? It's your company, your responsibility. You have to go. Olivia set her phone down on the workbench. And what about here? What about Emma? What about us? We'll be fine for a few days. This is important. So are you. Daniel crossed to her and took her hands. They were shaking. Liv, this is what you do. You save companies. You fix things. Go do that. We'll be here when you get back. What if I can't fix it? What if... Her voice cracked. What if this is the beginning of everything falling apart? Then we'll deal with it, but you won't know until you try. She pulled away and paced the length of the garage. I knew this would happen. I knew I couldn't just walk away from that life. It was stupid to think I could have both. You're not walking away. You're taking a business trip. Daniel, if I go back, they're going to want me to stay. They're going to make it impossible to leave again. And I don't know if I'm strong enough to choose this over everything I built. There it was, the fear underneath the panic. Daniel had been waiting for it if he was honest. Waiting for the moment when Olivia's old life came calling and his world got too small to hold her. So what are you saying? He asked quietly. I'm saying I'm terrified of losing you, of losing this, of going back to Seattle and realizing I don't know how to do this anymore. The power plays, the negotiations, The constant performance. I've been here 2 months, and I've forgotten how to be that person. Maybe that's a good thing. Or maybe it means I'm not qualified to run my own company anymore. Daniel leaned against the explorer. You think you're the first person who's had to balance 2 parts of their life? Sarah worked as a nurse while raising Emma. She did night shifts, double overtime, whatever it took. And yeah, it was hard. But she didn't choose one over the other. She found a way to have both. Sarah was stronger than me. No, she was just practiced. You're learning. There's a difference. Olivia stopped pacing and looked at him. Her eyes were red and she looked exhausted. What if I go back and I can't fix it? What if everything I spent 15 years building just crumbles? Then you'll have learned something. That's not failure. That's information. Easy for you to say, you're not the one who has to watch their life's work disappear. The words came out sharp, and Olivia flinched the second they were out of her mouth. I'm sorry. I didn't mean... Yeah, you did. Daniel's voice was flat. And you're right. I don't know what it's like to build something that big. My life's work is this garage and that kid upstairs, but I know what it's like to watch something die. So don't tell me I don't understand loss. Daniel, go to Seattle, fix your company, do whatever you need to do, but don't stand here and pretend you're the only one with something to lose. He walked past her and out of the garage before she could respond. The air outside was cold, and he stood in the driveway trying to breathe through the anger and hurt. Behind him, he heard Olivia come to the doorway. I'm sorry, she said again. That was unfair. Yeah. I'm just scared. I know, but I can't fix that for you. You have to decide what you want. I want this. I want you and Emma and this life. Then come back. Daniel turned to face her. Go to Seattle, handle your business, and come back. That's the deal. But if you're going to stand here looking for permission to stay, I can't give you that. This has to be your choice. Olivia's face crumpled. What if I make the wrong one? Then we'll both survive it, but at least you'll know. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I need to pack. I'll pick Emma up from school. Tell her you're leaving. Will you tell her I'm coming back? Daniel met her eyes. Are you? The question landed hard. Olivia opened her mouth, closed it, and finally said, I don't know. At least she was honest. Daniel picked Emma up at 3 and took her to get ice cream even though it wasn't Friday, which was their usual ice cream day. She knew something was wrong immediately. What happened? Emma asked, chocolate chip cone already dripping down her hand. Olivia has to go back to Seattle for work. Emergency with her company. Di albayemto. Makit. Emma's face went carefully blank. When? Tomorrow morning. For how long? I don't know. Is she coming back? Daniel wanted to lie. Wanted to promise his daughter that everything would be fine, that Olivia wouldn't do what everyone else in Emma's short life had done. Leave and not come back. But he'd learned the hard way that lying to Emma never worked. I hope so, he said. Emma set down her cone. She wasn't crying, but her eyes were too bright. You said she was different. You said she wouldn't leave. I said I thought she wouldn't, but people are complicated, Em. Sometimes they don't know what they're going to do until they're doing it. That's a terrible answer. Yeah, sorry, see. They sat in silence for a while. Around them, the ice cream shop was full of normal people having normal days, parents with toddlers, teenagers on dates, an old couple sharing a sundae. Daniel watched them and felt the distance between their lives and his, like a physical thing. I don't want to care about her anymore, Emma said quietly. It's easier when I don't care. I know, kiddo, but we can't really control that part. Why not, Shut? Because caring about people is what makes us human, even when it hurts. Emma looked at him with those eyes that were too old for 8. Do you care about her? Yeah, I do. Even though she might leave? Especially because she might leave. That's what makes it brave. That's stupid. Probably, but it's true. Emma picked up her cone and took a defiant bite. If she doesn't come back, can we get a dog? Despite everything, Daniel almost laughed. Sure, kid. We can get a dog. When they got home, Olivia's rental car was already loaded. She was standing in the driveway with her suitcase, and she looked like she was barely holding it together. Emma walked right past her into the house without a word. She hates me, Olivia said. She's protecting herself. There's a difference. Did you tell her I'm coming back? I told her I hoped you were. That's all I could promise. Olivia's face twisted. I've ruined everything, haven't I? Not yet, but you might. Daniel crossed his arms. Look, I'm not going to beg you to stay, and I'm not going to make this easy. You have to decide what matters more, that company or this life. And whatever you choose, you have to live with it. That's not fair. Why can't I have both? Maybe you can, but right now you're acting like you have to pick one or the other. And if that's true, I need to know. Olivia grabbed her suitcase. I have to go. My flight's in 2 hours. Then go. She walked to her car, then stopped and turned back. I love you, both of you. That hasn't changed. Love isn't the problem, Liv. Showing up is. She flinched but didn't argue. Just got in the car and drove away. And Daniel stood there watching until the taillights disappeared around the bend. Then he went inside to find Emma. She was in her room, door closed. Daniel knocked and waited until she said he could come in. She was sitting on her bed with the stuffed elephant, not crying but close. You okay? He asked. No. Yeah, me neither. Is she really coming back? I don't know, Em. I really don't know. Emma hugged the elephant tighter. I knew she would leave. Everyone leaves. Not everyone. I'm still here. You have to be. You're my dad. No, I choose to be. Every day. That's different. Emma looked up at him. What if she chooses not to come back? Then we'll be sad for a while. And then we'll keep going. Like we always do. I don't want to keep going. I want things to stay. Daniel sat down next to her and put his arm around her shoulders. I know, kiddo. I want that too. But we don't get to control what other people do. We just get to control how we respond. That sucks. Yeah, it really does. Oh. They sat like that until Emma fell asleep, and Daniel carried her to bed like he used to when she was little. Then he went downstairs and stared at his phone, waiting for a text that didn't come. The next 3 days were brutal. Olivia texted once when she landed, made it, heading to the office, and then nothing. Daniel threw himself into work, fixing cars with a focus that bordered on obsessive. Emma went to school and came home and did her homework in silence, and the house felt like a tomb. On the second night, Daniel broke down and called her. It rang 4 times before she answered. Hey. She sounded exhausted. Hey, how's it going? It's complicated. Meridian wants me to restructure the entire account. They're demanding I personally oversee the next 6 months of rollout, which means being here full time. Daniel's stomach dropped. What did you say? I said I'd think about it. That's not an answer, Olivia. I know. A pause. How's Emma? Angry, scared, convinced you're not coming back. And you? Same. Silence stretched between them. In the background, Daniel could hear voices, the hum of an office, Olivia's real world, the one she'd built long before she showed up on that mountain road. I don't know what to do, she said finally. If I say no, we lose Meridian. If we lose Meridian, we lose 3 other accounts. That's half my revenue. I'd have to lay off 30 people. So say yes. And lose you. I didn't say that. But that's what it means. I can't be in Seattle full time and build a life with you. It doesn't work. Daniel closed his eyes. Then I guess you have to choose. That's not... Why does it have to be all or nothing? Because that's what you're making it. You're standing there acting like there's no middle ground, no compromise. But there is. You're just too scared to look for it. Don't tell me what I'm scared of. Someone has to, because you're about to blow up your life over a client who's holding you hostage. They're not? Yes, they are. They're banking on you being too terrified of failure to say no. And it's working. Olivia's voice went cold. You don't understand business. No, I understand fear, and you're drowning in it. I have to go. There's a meeting. Liv? She hung up. Daniel threw his phone across the room and immediately regretted it. The screen didn't crack, but the case popped off, and he had to crawl under the couch to find it. By the time he reassembled it, his hands were shaking. Emma appeared in the doorway. Was that her? Yeah. Is she coming back? I don't know. Emma's face did something complicated. I hate this. I hate not knowing. Me too, kid. Can we watch a movie? Something dumb where nobody leaves? So Daniel pulled her onto the couch. Yeah, we can do that. They watched a superhero movie neither of them cared about, and Emma fell asleep halfway through. Daniel stayed awake, staring at the TV without seeing it, and tried not to think about Olivia standing in some sleek Seattle office, choosing a company over a family. Day 3, and still nothing. Daniel was replacing a radiator when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Is this Daniel Hayes? A woman's voice, professional. Yeah, who's this? My name is Rachel Kwan. I'm Olivia Grant's business partner. She gave me your number. Daniel's chest went tight. Is she okay? Physically, yes. Emotionally, I think she's having a breakdown, which is why I'm calling. A pause. Can we talk? Off the record? About what? About what she's not telling you. Daniel glanced at the clock. Emma wouldn't be home for 2 hours. Yeah, talk. Rachel took a breath. Olivia built this company from nothing. She was 25, broke, living in a studio apartment the size of a closet. She worked 100-hour weeks, slept under her desk, ate ramen for a year straight. And it worked. She turned a consulting side hustle into a multi-million-dollar firm. But it cost her everything else. I know the story. Do you? Because what she probably didn't tell you is that she's been trying to step back for 2 years. She hired me to take over operations. She brought in Marcus as COO. She built a team specifically so she wouldn't have to be the face of the company anymore. But clients like Meridian don't want the team. They want her. And every time she tries to leave, someone threatens to walk. Sushi. So she's trapped. She thinks she is. But here's the thing. Meridian is bluffing. They need us more than we need them. Their previous consultant screwed up their supply chain so badly, it'll take years to fix. We're the only firm with the expertise to do it, but they know Olivia won't call their bluff because she's terrified of failure. Daniel set down his wrench. Why are you telling me this? Daniel set. Because she called me last night crying, said she had to choose between her company and her family, and she didn't know what to do. And I told her she was an idiot. That's harsh. It's true. She's built this prison and convinced herself it's success. And unless someone breaks her out, she's going to spend the rest of her life alone and miserable. What do you want me to do? Come to Seattle. Show up at the office. Make her realize that she doesn't have to choose. She has to delegate. Trust her team. Let go of control. All the things she tells her clients to do but won't do herself. Daniel laughed, but it was bitter. I can't just drop everything and fly to Seattle. I have a daughter, a business. And she has a woman who loves her standing in an office convincing herself she has to sacrifice everything to be worthy. So yeah, drop everything. Because if you don't, she's going to make the wrong choice for all the right reasons. The line went dead. Daniel stood there holding his phone and trying to process what had just happened. Then he called the one person who might understand. Betty Ann picked up on the second ring. Hayes, if you're calling to cancel poker night again, I need a favor, a big one. Name it. Can you watch Emma for a couple days? I have to go to Seattle. For Olivia? Yeah. About damn time. When do you leave? Tonight, if I can get a flight. Bring her back, Daniel. That girl's good for you. I'm trying. He hung up and immediately started looking at flights. There was one leaving at midnight from the regional airport. It was expensive, stupidly expensive, but he booked it anyway. Then he called Emma's school and arranged for early pickup. When Emma got in the truck, she took one look at his face and said, "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, but I need to go to Seattle." Emma went very still. Why? To get Olivia. What if she doesn't want to come back? Then at least I'll know I tried. Emma chewed on that for a moment. Can I come? Not this time, kid. You're staying with Betty Ann. She's going to make me eat vegetables. Probably. And she'll tell me boring stories about her cats. Definitely. Emma crossed her arms. Fine, but you have to bring her back. And if you don't, we're getting 2 dogs. Deal. He packed a bag, dropped Emma at Betty Ann's with instructions and apologies, and made the 2-hour drive to the airport with his mind racing. He'd never been to Seattle. Didn't know Olivia's office address. Didn't know what he'd say when he got there. But Rachel was right about one thing. If he didn't show up, Olivia would convince herself she had to stay, and he'd lose her to fear. The flight was delayed, and Daniel didn't land until 4 in the morning. He grabbed his bag, found an all-night diner, and drank terrible coffee until 7. Then he called an Uber to the address Rachel had texted him sometime during the flight. Grant Consulting occupied the top 3 floors of a glass building downtown. Daniel walked into the lobby wearing jeans and a flannel shirt and immediately felt out of place. Everyone else was in suits, moving fast, speaking into phones. He didn't belong here, but Olivia did, and that was the problem. He took the elevator to the 23rd floor and walked into a reception area that looked like something from a magazine. The woman at the desk looked up and smiled professionally. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Olivia Grant. Do you have an appointment?" "No." Her smile tightened. "I'm sorry, but Ms. Grant is in meetings all day. If you'd like to schedule something, tell her Daniel's here. She'll see me." The receptionist hesitated, then picked up her phone. A quiet conversation Daniel couldn't hear. Then she hung up and said, "Someone will be with you in a moment." Daniel sat down and tried not to look at the sleek furniture and expensive art and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. This was Olivia's world, power and polish and control. And he was a mechanic from a town with one stoplight who'd just blown a month's profit on a plane ticket. 5 minutes later, a woman in a sharp suit appeared. Asian, mid-30s, expression unreadable. "Mr. Hayes, I'm Rachel Kwan." Daniel stood. "You're the one who called." "I am. Come with me." She led him through a maze of glass-walled offices and conference rooms. People stared as they passed, and Daniel didn't blame them. He must look like he'd wandered in off the street. Rachel stopped outside a closed door. "She's in there with the Meridian team. She's been in there since 6 this morning. Is she okay?" "Honestly? No. But maybe that's what it takes." Rachel knocked once and opened the door without waiting for an answer. The conference room was full of people in expensive suits sitting around a long table, and at the head of it, looking exhausted and professional and completely unlike the woman who'd made pancakes with Emma 3 days ago, was Olivia. She looked up, and when she saw Daniel, all the color drained from her face. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Rachel said smoothly, "but you have a visitor." One of the suits, an older man with silver hair, frowned. "We're in the middle of negotiations." "I know, but this is important." Rachel looked at Olivia. "Take 5. You need it." Olivia stood slowly like she was in a dream. She followed Daniel out into the hallway, and Rachel disappeared, leaving them alone. "What are you doing here?" Olivia whispered. "Saving you from yourself." "Daniel, I can't. I'm in the middle of—" "I know. Rachel told me." He took her hand. "And I know you think you have to choose, that you can't have the company and have us. But that's not true. You don't understand. If I don't give them what they want, they'll walk." "I know. Rachel also told me they're bluffing." Olivia pulled her hand away. "She shouldn't have called you." "Why? Because you were doing such a great job handling this yourself?" "That's not fair. Neither is you standing here pretending you have no options. You have a team. You have partners. You built this company so you wouldn't have to do everything alone. So stop acting like you do." Olivia's eyes filled with tears. "I'm terrified of letting them down, of losing everything I worked for. What about losing us? Does that scare you? More than anything?" "Then trust your team. Tell Meridian that Marcus will handle the account, that you're stepping back, that they can take it or leave it, and if they leave, you'll survive." "You don't know that." "Yeah, I do, because you're not your company. You're a person, and people can lose things and keep going. I've done it. Emma's done it. You can too." Olivia covered her face with her hands. "I don't know how." "Then let me show you." Daniel pulled her hands down. "Come home. Not forever, just for now. Let your team handle this, and if it falls apart, we'll figure out what comes next. But you can't keep sacrificing yourself on the altar of success. It's killing you." She was crying now, really crying. "What if I'm not strong enough? Then lean on me. That's what people do." For a long moment, she just stood there shaking. Then she took a breath, wiped her eyes, and said, "Okay." "Okay?" I'm coming home. Not because I'm giving up, but because I'm choosing something real over something empty. She straightened her shoulders. But first I have to go back in there and tell Meridian to go to hell. Daniel smiled. Need backup? No, but wait for me? Always. She kissed him, quick and hard, and then walked back into the conference room. Daniel couldn't hear what happened next, but 5 minutes later the Meridian team stormed out looking furious. Olivia emerged after them, pale but steady. I did it, she said. I told them Marcus was handling the account, or they could find another firm. They walked. How do you feel? Terrified. Exhilarated. Like I might throw up. That's normal. Rachel appeared from somewhere. For what it's worth, you did the right thing. We don't need clients who treat us like hostages. What if we lose the other accounts? Then we lose them, and we rebuild. That's business. Rachel looked at Daniel. Take her home. She hasn't slept in 3 days. Daniel took Olivia's hand. Come on, let's get out of here. They took a cab to her apartment so she could pack. Daniel had never seen it before. All glass and steel and empty space. There were no photos, no personal touches, nothing that said Olivia lived there. It looked like a hotel. This is it? He asked. Yeah, not much, is it? It's lonely. It was safe. She pulled a suitcase from the closet. Or I thought it was. Turns out you can't hide from yourself forever. Aha, boy, oi, ashidam. She threw clothes into the suitcase without folding them, and Daniel watched her move through this expensive shell of a life and felt something break open in his chest. She'd given up so much to build this, and now she was walking away from it for him. For Emma. For a life that must seem impossibly small from up here. You sure about this? He asked. Olivia stopped packing and looked at him. Are you asking if I'm sure about you? I'm asking if you're sure about giving up everything you built. I'm not giving it up. I'm redistributing it. There's a difference. She zipped the suitcase. And yeah, I'm sure. Because being successful and alone isn't success. It's just expensive loneliness. Daniel crossed to her and pulled her close. I love you, and I'm sorry I let you think you had to do this alone. I love you too, and I'm sorry I almost chose fear over you. Estás? They stood like that for a while, and then Olivia pulled back and said, Let's go home. They flew back that afternoon. Emma was waiting on Betty Ann's porch when they pulled up, and the look on her face when she saw Olivia get out of the truck was worth every penny Daniel had spent on plane tickets. You came back, Emma said. Olivia knelt down. I came back, and I'm not leaving again. Not like that. Promise? Promise. Emma threw herself into Olivia's arms, and Daniel watched them hold each other and felt something settle in his chest. They weren't fixed. There would be more hard conversations, more moments of doubt, more choices to make. But they were together, and that was enough. That night, after Emma was asleep, Daniel and Olivia sat on the back porch and looked at the stars. What happens now? Olivia asked. Now we figure it out. You work remotely, build the team, let go of control, and we build a life together. What if I mess it up? Then we fix it. That's what we do. She leaned against him. I walked away from $18 million today. And I don't regret it. She laughed. That's crazy, right? No, that's brave. They sat in comfortable silence, and Daniel thought about all the ways his life had changed since that day on the mountain road. How Olivia had come crashing in and broken everything open. How Emma had learned to trust again. How he'd learned that love wasn't about protection. It was about showing up even when things were hard. Hey, Daniel, Olivia said. Yeah? Thank you for coming to get me, for not giving up. Thank you for letting me. She kissed him, and it tasted like coming home. The first month after Seattle was harder than any of them expected. Olivia threw herself into restructuring her company from a distance, spending 12-hour days on video calls trying to convince clients that Marcus could handle their accounts as well as she could. Some believed her, some didn't. 2 smaller clients walked within the first week, and Daniel watched Olivia's face go tight every time her phone rang with bad news. I'm bleeding money, she said one night, laptop open at the kitchen table long after Emma had gone to bed. Revenue's down 40% from last quarter. Daniel set a cup of tea in front of her. You knew this would happen. Knowing it and living it are different things. She rubbed her eyes. Rachel says we'll stabilize in 6 months. That clients will see the team is solid. But 6 months is a long time to watch something you built fall apart. It's not falling apart. It's changing. Feels the same from here. Daniel pulled up a chair next to her. When Sarah got sick, the doctors gave us options. Aggressive treatment that might buy us a year, or palliative care that would keep her comfortable. And she chose comfort, said she'd rather have 6 good months than 12 miserable ones. He took Olivia's hand. You chose quality over quantity. That's not failure. Your wife was dying. I'm just reorganizing a company. You're choosing to live. That's the same thing. Yeah. Olivia closed the laptop and leaned against him. What if I made the wrong choice? Then we'll deal with it. But you didn't. She wanted to believe him. Daniel could see it in the way she held onto his hand like it was the only solid thing in her world. But belief took time, and Olivia was used to immediate results. Emma wasn't making it easier. She'd been thrilled when Olivia came back, but now that the crisis had passed, old patterns resurfaced. She tested Olivia constantly, forgot to mention school events until the last minute, left messes in rooms Olivia had just cleaned, asked pointed questions designed to find cracks. Do you miss Seattle? Emma asked one morning over cereal. Olivia looked up from her coffee. Sometimes. Why? Just wondering, do you miss being important? Daniel warned. What? I'm just asking. But her eyes were sharp. Olivia set down her cup. I'm still important, just in different ways. Like what? Like being here with you and your dad. That's important. Emma stirred her cereal without eating it. But you were important to thousands of people. Now you're just important to us. Isn't that boring? Emma, that's enough, Daniel said. It's okay. Olivia met Emma's gaze steadily. No, it's not boring, it's terrifying, because losing thousands of people is just numbers, but losing you two would actually break me. So yeah, this matters more. Emma looked away first. Whatever, I'm going to miss the bus. She grabbed her backpack and left, door slamming behind her. Daniel started to get up, but Olivia stopped him. Let her go. She's working through something. She's being cruel. She's protecting herself. I get it. Daniel slumped back in his chair. I thought this would get easier after you came back, but it feels like we're all just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Maybe we are. Maybe that's normal. I hate normal. Olivia smiled, but it was tired. Me too. The breaking point came 3 weeks later during Emma's spring concert. Emma had a solo, just 8 bars in the middle of a forgettable song about friendship, but she'd been practicing for weeks. Daniel had heard her singing in the shower, in her room, while doing homework. It mattered to her, which meant it mattered to him. The concert was at 7 on a Thursday. Daniel closed the garage early and came home to find Olivia still on a conference call that was supposed to have ended an hour ago. I understand the concerns, she was saying, voice tight. But the timeline hasn't changed. Marcus has the projections and… Daniel caught her eye and tapped his watch. Olivia nodded but kept talking. We can circle back on Monday. I need to go. Just 5 more minutes, the voice on the other end said. This is critical. Olivia hesitated, and Daniel saw the old pattern asserting itself. The inability to say no. The fear that stepping away meant losing control. No, Olivia said firmly. We're done for today. Send me the updated numbers and we'll discuss Monday. She hung up before they could argue. Daniel felt something loosen in his chest. That was hard for you, he said. Harder than it should be, but I'm learning. She closed her laptop. We have a concert to get to. They picked Emma up from her friend's house where she'd been getting ready. She climbed into the truck wearing her concert black and white, hair pulled back, looking nervous and excited and young. You're going to be great, Daniel said. You don't know that. Yeah, I do. You've been practicing like crazy. Emma twisted her hands together. What if I mess up? Then you'll keep going. That's what performers do. Olivia turned around from the front seat. I messed up a presentation once in front of 300 people, completely blanked on my talking points. You know what I did? Asam. What? Made a joke about it. Said my brain had temporarily relocated to Mars. Everyone laughed and I found my place again. Messing up isn't the end of the world. It's just part of doing hard things. Emma considered this. Did people think you were dumb? Probably some of them, but the ones who mattered knew I was human. They got to the school with 10 minutes to spare. The auditorium was packed with parents and siblings and people filming on their phones. Daniel found 3 seats near the middle while Olivia went to grab programs. When she came back, she was pale. "You okay?" Daniel asked. "Yeah, just a lot of people." "You've presented to hundreds of people. That's different." Those were strangers. These are Emma's community. If I do something wrong, it reflects on her. Daniel took her hand. "You're not going to do anything wrong. Just sit here and watch her shine." The concert started with the 5th graders doing a medley of folk songs. Then the 4th graders with something about seasons. Emma's 3rd grade class was up next, and Daniel felt his heart rate pick up when she walked onto the stage. She looked so small up there, and so determined. The song started, something about friends being treasures or some other elementary school sentiment. Emma sang with her class for the first verse, and then the music dropped out for her solo. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Daniel's stomach dropped. On stage, Emma's face went red. The piano kept playing, waiting for her to come in. The other kids were looking at her. The audience was getting uncomfortable. Then Olivia started singing. It was quiet at first, just loud enough for Emma to hear. The melody of the solo, steady and sure. And Emma's eyes found Olivia in the crowd, and something in her face shifted. She took a breath and joined in, her voice shaky at first, but getting stronger with each note. They sang the solo together, Olivia from the audience, Emma from the stage, and by the end, Emma was singing alone again, clear and confident. The rest of the class joined back in, and the song finished to enthusiastic applause. Daniel looked at Olivia. She was crying. "You saved her, Huss," he said. "She saved herself. I just gave her something to hold on to." After the concert, they found Emma backstage. She was surrounded by friends, all talking at once about how cool it was that someone sang with her. When she saw Olivia, she broke away from the group and walked over. "Thank you," Emma said quietly. "You did the hard part. I just hummed along. You knew all the words. Oh, you've been singing it for 3 weeks. I'd have to be deaf not to know it." Emma's face did something complicated. "I was so scared. I thought I was going to throw up in front of everyone. But you didn't. You pushed through it. That's brave." "I'm not brave. Brave people don't freeze up." Olivia knelt down so they were eye level. "Emma, brave people freeze up all the time. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the thing anyway. And you did. I'm proud of you." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Really?" "Really." She threw her arms around Olivia's neck, and Daniel watched his daughter hold on to this woman who'd shown up for her in the way that mattered most. Not with grand gestures or promises, but with presence. With showing up and staying even when things got hard. On the drive home, Emma fell asleep in the back seat. Daniel glanced at Olivia and saw she was staring out the window. "What are you thinking?" He asked. "That I almost missed this. If I'd stayed in Seattle, I would have missed the whole thing. And she would have gotten through it without me, but I wouldn't have been there." But you were there." "Yeah." She smiled. "I was." That night, after Emma was in bed, Olivia pulled out her laptop and sent an email. Daniel watched over her shoulder as she typed. "Rachel, I need you to start looking for a permanent CEO. Someone who can take over full operations by end of year. I'll stay on as consultant and board member, but I'm done being the face of the company. It's time." She hit send before she could second guess it. "That's it?" Daniel asked. "You're really stepping back." "I'm really stepping back. Grant Consulting can survive without me running it. Emma's concert can't." She closed the laptop. "I spent 15 years building something that matters to investors and clients. I want to spend the next 15 building something that matters to me. No regrets? Ask me in a year." "Oh," Daniel pulled her close. "I'm asking now." Olivia kissed him. "No regrets." The next few months were a study and adjustment. Olivia handed off clients, trained Rachel to handle board meetings, and slowly extracted herself from the daily operations of her company. It was painful, watching something she'd built function without her, but it was also freeing. She threw herself into Emma's life instead. Joined the PTA for real this time, not just showing up, but actually participating. Volunteered for the school fundraiser and ended up running the whole thing because the previous coordinator quit. Started a weekly game night that Emma tolerated and Daniel secretly loved. But the biggest change was in the small moments. Olivia learning to make Emma's favorite cookies from scratch after 6 failed attempts. Emma asking Olivia to braid her hair because she was better at it than Daniel. The three of them watching terrible reality TV and arguing about who was the villain. Building routines and inside jokes and the kind of history that made them a family. It wasn't perfect. Emma still had bad days where she withdrew and refused to talk about what was wrong. Olivia still got stressed about money and control and the fear of being irrelevant. Daniel still woke up, sometimes reaching for Sarah and finding Olivia instead, and feeling guilty about how right it felt. But they worked through it, together. In July, Emma asked Olivia if she could call her mom. It happened on a random Tuesday. They were making dinner, spaghetti and meatballs, and Emma was grating cheese while Olivia stirred sauce. "Can I ask you something?" Emma said. "Always." "Do you want me to call you Mom?" Olivia's hand stilled on the spoon. "Where's this coming from?" "My friend Chloe has a stepmom, and she calls her mom. But her real mom died when she was a baby, so she doesn't remember her. I remember mine. So I don't know if it's okay." Olivia set down the spoon and turned to face Emma fully. "Do you want to call me Mom?" "Sometimes, but I don't want to forget my real mom." "Emma, you could never forget her. She's part of who you are. And calling me Mom wouldn't change that. It would just mean you have space in your heart for both of us." Is that allowed? Love doesn't work like that. It's not a limited resource. You can love your dad and love me and love your mom who's gone. It's all real. Emma set down the cheese grater. "What if I call you Mom and then you leave? That would suck." "It would, but I'm not leaving. You say that now. And I'll keep saying it until you believe me." Olivia knelt down. "But here's the thing. You don't have to decide right now. Call me Olivia. Call me Liv. Call me whatever feels right. And if someday Mom feels right, then use that. I'm not going anywhere either way." Emma thought about this for a long moment. Then she said, "Can I try it? Just to see how it sounds?" "Of course." Emma took a breath. "Mom, can you pass me the cheese?" Olivia's eyes filled with tears, but she kept her voice steady. "Sure, sweetheart." She handed over the cheese, and Emma went back to grating like nothing monumental had just happened. But when Daniel came in from the garage 5 minutes later, Olivia pulled him aside and told him what had happened, and they stood in the hallway holding each other while their daughter sang off-key in the kitchen. "She called me Mom," Olivia whispered. "How do you feel?" "Terrified, honored, like I just signed up for something I'm not qualified for. Welcome to parenthood. That's the whole job." She laughed through tears. "I don't want to screw this up." "You won't, and even if you do, we'll fix it. That's what families do." That night, after Emma was asleep, Daniel found Olivia on the back porch again. She'd claimed that spot as hers over the months, the place she went to think. He sat down next to her and handed her a beer. "Celebrating?" she asked. Seemed appropriate. "It's not every day you become a mom." Olivia took a drink. "I keep thinking about my parents, how they had all these expectations for me. Perfect grades, perfect college, perfect career. And I did all of it, checked every box, but they never asked if I was happy." "Were you?" "No, I was successful. There's a difference." She looked at him. "Emma asked me today if I wanted her to call me Mom. Not told me to, not assumed. Asked, like my feelings mattered. When's the last time someone did that?" "What did you say?" "That she should call me whatever felt right, because I'm not trying to replace Sarah. I'm just trying to be present, to show up, to matter. You do matter, to both of us." Olivia leaned against him. "I walked away from everything I spent 15 years building, and I don't miss it. Is that crazy?" "No, that's growth." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Olivia said, "I want to marry you." Daniel's beer stopped halfway to his mouth. "What? Bam odds bought it. I want to marry you. I want to be Emma's stepmom officially. I want to build a life here that's real and permanent and ours. She turned to look at him. I know it's fast. I know we've only been doing this for 6 months. But I'm sure. Are you? Daniel set down his beer. His heart was hammering, and his hands were shaking, and he felt like he was standing at the edge of something vast. Yeah, he said. I'm sure. So is that a yes? That's a yes, but I'm supposed to be the one asking. Olivia smiled. So ask. Daniel got down on one knee right there on the back porch. No ring, no plan, just the two of them and the stars and the certainty that this was right. Olivia Grant, will you marry me? Yes, obviously yes. He pulled her down and kissed her, and it tasted like coming home and starting over and everything in between. They told Emma the next morning over breakfast. She looked at them suspiciously. You're acting weird, she said. We have news, Daniel said. Are we getting a dog? Better. Olivia and I are getting married. Emma set down her spoon, looked at Olivia, then at Daniel, then back at Olivia. Like, officially married? Officially, Olivia said, if that's okay with you. Do I get a vote? You get input, but this is happening either way. Emma thought about it. Can I be in the wedding? You can be whatever you want. Flower girl, bridesmaid, co-officiant. Your call. Can I bring the elephant? Who? The elephant is definitely invited. Emma went back to her cereal. Okay then, but I'm not wearing a poofy dress. Deal. Just like that, it was decided. Planning the wedding was chaos. Olivia wanted small and simple, but the town had other ideas. Betty Ann insisted on catering. Mrs. Chen offered to decorate. The PTA moms formed an unofficial planning committee that took over Olivia's dining room every Wednesday night. I thought we were having a simple ceremony, Olivia said, staring at fabric swatches. This is small town simple, Daniel said. It means everyone gets involved whether you want them to or not. I'm starting to understand why you never leave. Too late now. You're stuck with us. She smiled. Good. They set the date for October, 6 months away. Long enough to plan, but not so long that they could second-guess it. Emma threw herself into preparations with the intensity she brought to everything, designing invitations and picking flowers and generally bossing everyone around. She's enjoying this too much, Daniel said, watching Emma direct the PTA moms like a tiny general. She's happy. Let her have it. When did you get so relaxed? Olivia looked at him. When I stopped trying to control everything. Turns out life's easier when you just let it happen. Who are you and what did you do with Olivia Grant? She's still here. Who and what? Just softer around the edges. Daniel pulled her close. I like your edges, soft or otherwise. That's good, because you're marrying all of them. Summer bled into fall. Olivia officially stepped down as CEO in August and stayed on as a consultant and board member, which meant 2 days a week of video calls and the rest of her time free. She used it to learn quilting from Mrs. Chen, help Emma with her science fair project, and renovate the garage apartment into a proper home office. Daniel watched her build this new life and marveled at how natural it looked on her. The woman who'd shown up in a luxury sedan terrified of being forgotten had been replaced by someone who went to farmers markets in jeans and volunteered at the school library and knew everyone's name. Do you miss it? He asked one night. The power, the big deals. Olivia looked up from the quilt she was working on. Sometimes, but then I remember what it cost me, and I don't miss it enough to go back. What if you change your mind? Then I'll deal with it. But right now, I'm exactly where I want to be. September brought the first real test. One of Olivia's former clients, a major manufacturing company, reached out directly asking her to come back for an emergency turnaround. 6 months, they said. Name her price. It was the kind of offer she would have killed for a year ago. She turned it down without hesitation. Don't you want to think about it? Rachel asked on the phone. Rachel. No, I'm done with that life. But you should take it. You're ready. Are you sure? I'm sure. It's yours now. All of it. When she hung up, Daniel was watching from the doorway. No regrets? He asked. Not one. You didn't even consider it. What's to consider? I have a wedding to plan and a daughter who needs help with her times tables. That's more important than any client. Daniel crossed to her and kissed her forehead. I love you. I love you too. Now help me figure out centerpieces. Emma thinks we should use soccer balls. She plays soccer. Exactly. The weeks flew by. Dress fittings and cake tastings and 100 small decisions that somehow added up to a wedding. Emma tried on 3 different dresses before settling on a simple blue one that she declared was acceptable. Olivia found a dress that Sarah would have liked. Simple, elegant, no fuss. Daniel wore the suit he'd bought for Sarah's funeral and tried not to think about the symbolism. The night before the wedding, Emma couldn't sleep. Daniel found her sitting on her bed at midnight, staring at the elephant. You okay, kid? Is it bad that I'm excited about the wedding? Daniel sat down next to her. Why would that be bad? Because Mom's gone. And I'm excited about Dad marrying someone else. That feels wrong. Emma, your mom would want us to be happy. All of us. She wouldn't want us frozen in grief forever. How do you know? Because she told me, before she died. Said she didn't want us to stop living, that life was for the living. Emma was quiet for a moment. Do you think she'd like Olivia? Yeah, I think they would have been friends. Really? Really. They're both stubborn and smart, and they don't take crap from anyone. They would have gotten along great. Emma leaned against him. I miss her. Me too, kiddo. Every day. But I'm glad we have Liv now. Yeah, me too. They sat like that until Emma's breathing evened out and she fell asleep. Daniel carried her to bed and pulled the blanket over her, and then he went downstairs to find Olivia sitting at the kitchen table. Can't sleep either? He asked. Too many thoughts. She looked up at him. Are we doing the right thing? She looked up. Little late to back out now. I'm serious. What if we're rushing this? What if Emma's not ready? What if, Daniel pulled her to her feet and kissed her quiet. We're doing the right thing. And I know you're scared, but scared is normal. What matters is we're doing it anyway. When did you get so wise? I've been faking it for years. You're just now noticing. She smiled against his mouth. I love you. I love you too. Now come to bed. We're getting married tomorrow, and you need to look good for the photos. What about you? I always look good, huh? She laughed and let him pull her upstairs, and they fell asleep tangled together while the town slept around them. The next day dawned clear and perfect. October in full swing, leaves turning gold and red, air crisp enough to need a jacket. Daniel woke up alone because Olivia had gone to Betty Ann's to get ready, some tradition about not seeing each other before the ceremony. He lay in bed for a moment, trying to process that by tonight he'd be married again. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it felt right. Emma knocked on his door at 7. Dad, you awake? Yeah, come in. She opened the door, already dressed in her blue dress. I'm nervous. Me too. What if I mess up? Then we'll laugh about it later. That's what weddings are for. She sat on the edge of his bed. Do you think Mom's watching? I don't know. Maybe. If she is, I hope she's happy for us. Daniel pulled Emma into a hug. She is, kiddo. I know she is. They got ready together, Daniel in his suit, Emma fussing with her hair until it was perfect. At noon, they drove to the park where the ceremony would be held. It was the same place Daniel used to take Emma when she was little, back when pushing her on the swings was the only thing that made her stop crying after Sarah died. The whole town had turned out. Chairs set up in rows, flowers everywhere, Betty Ann directing traffic like a general. And there, at the front, stood Olivia. She looked beautiful. Simple dress, hair down, no veil. Just her, real and present, and his. Daniel took Emma's hand and walked down the aisle. When they reached the front, Emma went to stand with Olivia, and the two of them smiled at each other like they were sharing a secret. The ceremony was short. No long speeches, no elaborate vows. Just Daniel and Olivia promising to show up for each other, to be present, to build something real together. And when the officiant said they could kiss, Daniel pulled Olivia close and thought about all the ways his life had changed since that day on the mountain road. Behind them, Emma cheered. The town erupted in applause. And Daniel Hayes, mechanic and father and widower, became Daniel Hayes, husband to the woman who'd found him when they were both lost. At the reception, Emma gave a toast. "I didn't want a new mom," she said into the microphone, voice clear. "I had a mom, and she died, and I thought that was it. But then Liv showed up, and she didn't try to replace mom. She just showed up. Every day. Even when I was mean, even when I tested her, she stayed." Emma looked at Olivia. "So I'm glad Dad married you, because you're family now, officially." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Later, as the sun set and people danced and ate too much cake, Daniel found Olivia standing at the edge of the crowd, watching Emma teach some of the younger kids a complicated dance move she'd learned at school. "Happy?" he asked. Olivia turned to him, and her face was radiant. "Happier than I've ever been." "No regrets about the company? The career? Any of it?" "Not one. This is what success looks like, not money or power. This. People who love you showing up, a kid who calls you mom, a man who sees you completely and chooses you anyway." She took his hand. "I spent 15 years chasing the wrong thing. I'm done chasing. I'm home." Daniel pulled her onto the makeshift dance floor, and they swayed to music that was too fast for slow dancing. Around them, the town celebrated their family, their community, their people. And somewhere in the crowd, Emma was laughing, and it was the best sound Daniel had ever heard. The honeymoon was 3 days at a cabin 2 hours north. Nothing fancy, just a place with a fireplace and a view of the mountains and enough distance from the garage that Daniel could pretend his phone didn't exist. Emma stayed with Betty Ann, who'd promised minimal vegetables and maximum spoiling, and Daniel and Olivia drove up on a Sunday morning with no plan except to be together. The first night, they sat on the porch watching the sun set over the ridge, and Olivia said something Daniel hadn't expected. "I want to tell you about the letter." Daniel looked over at her. "What letter?" "The one I wrote you 15 years ago, when I left." She was staring at the horizon, not meeting his eyes. "You said you never got it, that you didn't remember any of it. But I need to tell you what was in it. Even if you can't remember, I need you to know." "Okay." Olivia took a breath. "I told you I was sorry, that I was choosing my parents' dream over ours, that I was too scared to fight for what we had because I didn't think I was strong enough to build a different life. And I told you that you deserved better than someone who ran when things got hard." She finally looked at him. "I was 17 and stupid, and convinced that success meant doing what other people expected, and I've regretted it every day since." Daniel was quiet for a moment, trying to find something in his memory that matched her words. But there was still nothing, just empty space where she said their history should be. "I wish I could remember," he said finally. "I wish I could tell you it was okay, that I understood. But I can't. That version of me is just gone. I know. And maybe that's better. Maybe you needed to forget to move forward. Oh, got this, or maybe I was just drunk and broken and trying to survive." Daniel turned to face her fully. "Liv, I don't know who I was at 18, but I know who I am now. And that's the person who gets to love you, not some ghost from the past." Olivia's eyes filled. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed? If we tried to make it work back then?" "Sometimes, but we were kids. We would have crashed and burned. You don't know that." "Yeah, I do, because I was angry and aimless and drowning, and you were trying to be perfect for parents who'd never be satisfied. We would have destroyed each other." "So you think this us now is better?" "I think this is real. Back then was just potential, and potential doesn't keep you warm at night." She laughed through tears. "When did you get so philosophical?" "Widowhood and single parenthood makes you think about what matters." They sat in silence for a while, and Daniel thought about all the versions of himself he'd been. The angry teenager who enlisted to escape. The young husband who married Sarah because it was the right thing to do. The father who learned to braid hair and pack lunches and show up even when showing up felt impossible. The widower who thought he'd never love anyone again. And now this, husband to a woman who'd found him across 15 years and chosen him anyway. "You know what I think?" Olivia said quietly. "I think we both had to become who we are now to make this work. If we'd stayed together at 18, we would have been holding on to people we were supposed to outgrow. But this, Meeting again as adults who've lived and lost and learned, this is the version that lasts. You really believe that? I have to. Otherwise, I spent 15 years making the wrong choice. Daniel pulled her close. You made the choice you needed to make then, and you're making the right choice now. That's all any of us can do. The second day, they hiked up to a waterfall Emma would have loved. The trail was steep, and halfway up, Olivia had to stop to catch her breath. I'm so out of shape, she gasped. You run a company from a laptop. When do you have time to exercise? I used to have a gym membership, personal trainer 3 times a week. And I haven't been in 6 months. Too busy being a stepmom. Daniel grinned. Worth it? Completely. But my lungs disagree. They made it to the waterfall eventually, and it was worth the climb. Water cascading down 50 feet of rock into a pool so clear you could see the bottom. They sat on the edge and dangled their feet in water so cold it hurt. Emma would love this, Olivia said. We'll bring her next time. Next time. I like the sound of that. Daniel reached over and took her hand. We're going to have a lot of next times. That's the point of marriage. I know, but I spent so long not having them that they still feel fragile. Like if I blink wrong, it'll all disappear. It won't. We're solid. How do you know? Because we've both been through worse and survived. This is the good part. We get to just be. Olivia leaned against him. I'm not used to just being. I'm used to striving and achieving and proving I'm worthy. You don't have to prove anything with me. You already are worthy. Even when I'm difficult, especially then, means you're being real. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I think that's what scared me most about coming back. Not that you'd reject me, but that I wouldn't know how to be loved without earning it. And now? Now I'm learning, slowly. You and Emma are teaching me. They stayed at the waterfall for hours, talking about everything and nothing. Olivia told him about her childhood, the pressure to be perfect, the way her parents measured love and achievements. Daniel told her about Sarah's last days, the things he'd never told anyone because they hurt too much to say out loud. By the time they hiked back down, something had shifted. Not fixed, because people aren't problems to solve. Just settled, like they'd both finally exhaled. The third day they didn't leave the cabin at all, just stayed in bed late, made terrible pancakes, and talked about the future. I want to adopt her, Olivia said. Daniel looked up from his coffee. What? Emma. I want to adopt her, officially, make it legal. She already calls you Mom. I know, but I want it to be real, on paper. So if something happens to you, she's mine. So there's no question that we're family. Daniel felt his throat close up. You've thought about this. Every day since the wedding. I know it's fast. I know there's paperwork and courts, and it's a whole thing, but I want to do it, if you'll let me. Liv, you don't need my permission. Emma's the one who gets a say. I'm asking you first because you're her father, and I need to know you trust me with this. Daniel set down his coffee and crossed to where she was sitting. Daniel sat down. I trust you with everything. With Emma, with me, with our whole messy life. So yeah, let's do it. Olivia started crying, which seemed to be her default setting lately. Really? Really, but we're asking Emma together. This is her choice too. They drove home that afternoon, and Emma was waiting on Betty Ann's porch with her overnight bag already packed. You're back early, she said, climbing into the truck. Missed you too much to stay away, Olivia said. Emma rolled her eyes but smiled. How was it? Good. We hiked, talked, the usual honeymoon stuff. Did you see any bears? No bears. Sorry to disappoint. That's okay. Betty Ann let me make cookies. I saved you some. When they got home, the three of them sat at the kitchen table with the cookies Emma had made, and Daniel looked at Olivia. She nodded. We want to talk to you about something, Daniel said. Emma's face went wary. What kind of something? A good something. Olivia wants to adopt you. Make it official that you're her daughter too. Emma set down her cookie. Like, legally? Legally, Olivia said, if you want that. You don't have to say yes. This is your choice. Would I have to change my name? Only if you want to. You could be Emma Hayes, Emma Grant, Emma Hayes Grant. Whatever feels right. Emma thought about this for a long moment. Would I still be Dad's daughter? Always, Daniel said. Nothing changes that. This just means you'd officially have two parents instead of one. What about my mom? My real mom? Olivia's voice went gentle. She'll always be your mom, Emma. Emma, I'm not trying to replace her. I'm trying to be here for you in whatever way you need. And if that means being your legal mom too, I want that. But only if you do. Emma looked down at the table. Can I think about it? Of course. Take all the time you need. That night, Daniel found Emma in her room staring at a photo of Sarah. It was her favorite, Sarah laughing at something off camera, hair messy, completely herself. You okay? He asked. Is it bad that I want Liv to adopt me? Daniel sat down on her bed. Why would that be bad? Because it feels like I'm choosing her over Mom. Like I'm saying, Mom doesn't matter anymore. Emma, your mom will always matter. She's part of you, part of us. Having Olivia in our lives doesn't erase that. But if Liv adopts me, then I'll have two moms, and one of them is dead. That's weird. Yeah, it's weird, but lots of families are weird. That doesn't make them wrong. Emma set down the photo. Do you think Mom would be okay with this? I think she'd want you to have as many people loving you as possible, and she'd like Olivia. I really believe that. How do you know? Because Olivia shows up every time, even when it's hard. That's what your mom did too. They're more alike than you think. Emma considered this. Okay, I want to do it. The adoption. You're sure? I'm sure. But I want to keep Hayes. Emma Hayes. Not Hayes Grant, just Hayes. That's perfect, kiddo. We'll tell Olivia tomorrow. Can I tell her? Yeah, she'd like that. The next morning, Emma walked into the kitchen where Olivia was making breakfast and said without preamble, I want you to adopt me, but I'm keeping my name, Emma Hayes. Is that okay? Olivia set down the spatula and knelt down to Emma's level. That's more than okay. That's perfect. And you're not replacing my mom, you're just adding on. Adding on. I like that. Emma threw her arms around Olivia's neck. Love you, Mom. Olivia held her and cried, and Daniel watched from the doorway and thought about how broken they'd all been a year ago, how scared and lonely and convinced they'd never be whole again, and how wrong they'd been. The adoption process took 4 months. Paperwork and background checks and a court date in February where a judge made it official. Emma wore her blue dress from the wedding and held the stuffed elephant the whole time. When the judge signed the papers, she grinned so wide Daniel thought his heart might burst. Afterwards, they went to the diner to celebrate, and Betty Ann brought out a cake she'd made without being asked. To the Hayes family, she said, raising a glass. Officially complete. Emma took a huge bite of cake and said through a mouthful, Can we get a dog now? Daniel and Olivia looked at each other. Absolutely not, they said in unison. 2 weeks later, they adopted a dog. It was Emma's idea, but Olivia was the one who found the listing, a rescue terrier mix who'd been at the shelter for 6 months, old enough that nobody wanted him, young enough to still have energy. When they went to meet him, he took one look at Emma and decided she was his person. We're not getting a dog, Daniel said, watching Emma roll around on the floor with the terrier. We're absolutely getting a dog, Olivia said. They named him Murphy, and he was a disaster. Chewed everything, barked at nothing, refused to be house-trained. But Emma loved him, and Olivia insisted they could train him, and Daniel gave up pretending to have any control over his household. This is chaos, he said one night, watching Murphy eat Emma's homework while Emma laughed, and Olivia tried to negotiate with the dog, who clearly didn't speak English. This is family, Olivia corrected, finally wresting the paper away from Murphy. Messy and loud and imperfect. And you're okay with that? I'm better than okay. I spent 15 years in a perfect, quiet, empty apartment. This is so much better. Yeah. Spring came, and with it Emma's 9th birthday. They threw a party at the house, half her class, way too much cake, Murphy losing his mind over all the new people. Olivia organized games while Daniel manned the grill, and Emma held court like the tiny monarch she was. Best birthday ever, she declared at the end of the night, covered in frosting and grass stains. Better than last year? Daniel asked. Way better, because this year I have a mom. Olivia, who'd been cleaning up, stopped and looked over. Emma ran to her and hugged her, and Daniel took a photo, because some moments needed to be remembered. That night, after Emma was asleep and the house was finally quiet, Daniel and Olivia sat on the back porch, with Murphy snoring between them. I've been thinking, Olivia said. Dangerous. I want to do something with the money, from selling my stake in the company. Daniel sat up. You sold your stake? Last month. Officially transitioned everything to Rachel. She's CEO now. I'm just a consultant. How much? Enough that Emma's college is paid for, and enough that we could expand the garage, or take a real vacation, or, I don't know, build something. What do you want to build? Olivia was quiet for a moment. I want to start a program for kids who've lost parents, a place where they can talk to other kids who understand, where they can learn that grief doesn't have to define them. Daniel felt something catch in his chest. Because of Emma. Because of Emma. Because of me. Because everyone deserves to know they're not alone. That's a good thing to build. Will you help me? Yeah, I'll help you. They spent the next 6 months planning. Olivia researched nonprofits and grief counseling models. Daniel talked to the school about hosting meetings. Emma helped design flyers and insisted they needed snacks at every session because sad kids need cookies. The first meeting was in September, and 12 kids showed up. Some had lost parents to illness, some to accidents, some to things they didn't want to talk about. Emma stood up and introduced herself. I'm Emma. My mom died when I was 5, and for a long time I thought that meant I'd be sad forever. But then my dad met Olivia, and she didn't try to replace my mom. She just showed up. And now I have a mom again. A different one. But she's real. And I'm still sad sometimes about my old mom, but I'm also happy. And that's okay. But the other kids listened, and slowly they started sharing their own stories. And Daniel watched Olivia facilitate and guide and hold space for these broken kids. And he thought about how far she'd come from the woman who'd shown up on that mountain road. After the meeting, a girl about Emma's age came up to Olivia. My dad died last year, she said quietly, and my mom's been trying to find someone new, but I don't want a new dad. Olivia knelt down. You don't have to want one, but if your mom does find someone, it doesn't mean they're replacing your dad. It just means your family is growing. How do you know? Because I'm the someone new in Emma's family, and she was really mad at me at first, but we figured it out, together. The girl thought about this. Does it get easier, missing them? No, thought about, but you get stronger, and that makes the missing hurt less. Watching them, Daniel felt Emma slip her hand into his. Mom's good at this, she said. Yeah, she is. Are you glad she came back, even though you didn't remember her? Daniel looked at his daughter. Yeah, kiddo. I'm really glad. Me too. October rolled around again, marking a full year since the wedding. Daniel wanted to do something special, but Olivia insisted they keep it simple. We don't need grand gestures, she said. We just need this. This was dinner at home with Emma. This was Murphy begging for scraps. This was the 3 of them plus one ridiculous dog being loud and messy and real. And Olivia was right. It was enough. But Daniel had something planned anyway. On Saturday morning, he told Olivia to get in the truck. Emma was in on it, staying home with Murphy and a list of instructions. Olivia protested, but came anyway, and Daniel drove the familiar route toward Route 9. Where are we going? She asked. You'll see. He pulled over at the same spot where he'd fixed her car that first day. The mountain road stretched out in both directions, empty and quiet. Why are we here? Olivia asked. Daniel got out and came around to her side, helped her out of the truck, and then, standing on the side of the road where it had all started, he said what he'd been thinking about for months. A year ago, you showed up in my life claiming we had a past I couldn't remember, and I could have sent you away, could have said you were crazy or mistaken or lying, But I didn't. You want to know why? Olivia shook her head, eyes already wet. Because even though I didn't remember you, something in me recognized you. Not the girl from high school, but the woman you'd become, strong and scared and desperate for something real. And I wanted to be the person who gave that to you. Daniel, let me finish. This year has been the hardest and best year of my life. Watching you learn to be a mom. Watching Emma learn to trust you. Building this family from scratch. And I know we still have hard days. That grief doesn't just disappear. That you still miss your old life sometimes. And I still reach for Sarah in my sleep. But we're doing it. Together. And that's everything. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Not a ring. They already had those. Something else. What is this? Olivia asked, opening it. Inside was a simple silver bracelet with 3 charms. A gear for him. A briefcase for her. A small elephant for Emma. So you remember, Daniel said, where we started, who we've become, who we're choosing to be. Olivia was fully crying now. It's perfect. You're perfect, even when you're difficult and stubborn and trying too hard. I love you so much, even though I barely know how. You're learning. We both are. That's the point. He fastened the bracelet around her wrist, and they stood there on the mountain road where it had all begun, holding each other like they could stop time. You know what I think? Olivia said finally. I think the universe knew we weren't ready the first time, that we had to become who we are now to make this work. Or maybe it was just dumb luck and bad timing. Let me have my romantic moment. Daniel smiled. Okay, the universe brought us together. Sure. Thank you for believing in us when I couldn't. Thank you for coming back, for choosing this messy, small, imperfect life. They drove home to find Emma and Murphy playing in the yard. Emma looked up when they pulled in. Did you do the thing? She called. I did the thing, Daniel called back. Did she cry? She cried. I knew it. Olivia laughed and wiped her face. I'm very predictable. You're very loved, Emma corrected, running over. Can we have ice cream now? You said if the anniversary thing went well, we could have ice cream. I said maybe. That's basically yes. So they piled into the truck, all 3 of them plus Murphy, who absolutely was not allowed in the truck but came anyway, and went to get ice cream at 3 in the afternoon on a random Saturday. And people stared because they were loud and Murphy was barking and Emma was singing off key, but Daniel didn't care. This was his family, imperfect and chaotic and built from broken pieces, but real in a way nothing else had ever been. That night, after Emma was in bed and Murphy was snoring on the couch, Daniel found Olivia on the back porch, her spot, the place she went to think. What are you thinking about? He asked, sitting next to her. How different my life is from what I planned. I was supposed to be running an empire, flying first class, making power moves, and instead I'm here, in a small town, raising someone else's kid, married to a mechanic. Daniel's stomach tightened. Regret it? Olivia looked at him, and her eyes were clear. Not for a second. I was chasing the wrong thing. Power isn't success. Connection is. Love is. Showing up is. She took his hand. I'd rather have this, you and Emma and Murphy and this ridiculous porch, than all the corner offices in the world. Even on the hard days? Especially on the hard days. Because hard days with people you love are better than easy days alone. Daniel pulled her close, and they sat there watching the stars and listening to the sounds of their small town settling in for the night. Somewhere inside, Emma was dreaming. Murphy was destroying something he shouldn't have. Their life was continuing, messy and imperfect, and theirs. You know what the hardest part is? Olivia said quietly, believing I deserve this. That I'm worthy of being loved without having to earn it constantly. You are worthy, even when you doubt it. How do you know? Because I see you, every day, showing up for Emma even when it's hard, building a life you didn't plan but choosing it anyway. That's not just worthy, that's brave. She was crying again, but it was the good kind, the kind that came from being seen. Here's what Daniel had learned in the year since Olivia crashed back into his life. Second chances aren't about fixing the past. They're about building something new from the wreckage of who you used to be. Olivia couldn't reclaim the boy she'd left 15 years ago because that boy didn't exist anymore. And Daniel couldn't give her the life she'd imagined because imagination doesn't account for reality's sharp edges. But they could give each other this: presence and partnership and the daily choice to show up. Not because it was easy, because it mattered. Emma had learned it too, in her own way. That loving someone new didn't betray the memory of someone gone. That hearts are bigger than we think, with room for grief and joy in the same breath. That family isn't just blood, it's the people who stay when staying gets hard. And Olivia, she'd learned that success measured in spreadsheets and corner offices was just another kind of prison. That real power came from vulnerability, from saying I need you and meaning it, from building something small and genuine instead of something massive and hollow. 3 days later, Daniel was in the garage when Emma came running in, out of breath. "Dad, Mom's on the news. Twos or yish." It. He dropped his wrench and followed her inside, where Olivia was staring at the TV in shock. A reporter was talking about the grief support program, how it had grown from 12 kids to 40 in just 3 months, how other towns were asking to replicate the model, how one woman had left corporate success to make a real difference. "Did you know about this?" Olivia asked. "Betty Ann might have called the local station," Daniel admitted. "Thought people should know about the good work you're doing." Olivia turned off the TV. "I don't want attention. I just want to help kids." "Too late. You're a local hero now." Emma grinned. "Can I tell people at school my mom's famous?" "I'm not famous. I'm just doing what matters." And that, Daniel thought, was the whole point. Olivia had spent 15 years chasing recognition for things that didn't fulfill her. And now she was doing work that mattered to a handful of grieving kids, and she was embarrassed by the attention. She'd finally figured out what success actually looked like. 6 months later, on a random Tuesday, Olivia came home with news. "Rachel called," she said, setting down her bag. "The company's being acquired, tech giant out of California. She wanted to know if I had any objections." Daniel looked up from helping Emma with homework. "Do you?" "No, it's her company now. She gets to decide." Olivia sat down at the table. "But it's weird, watching something I built become something else entirely." "How do you feel?" "Relieved, like I finally closed a door I've been holding open for no reason." Emma looked up. "Does this mean we're rich?" "Emma," Daniel warned. "What? It's a valid question." Olivia laughed. "The acquisition means I get a payout, a big one, which I'm putting into trust for your college and investing the rest into the grief program." "So we're not getting a boat?" "We live nowhere near water. But if we had a boat, no boat." "You guys are no fun," say. But Emma was smiling, and so was Olivia. And Daniel looked at these two stubborn, brilliant women who'd somehow become his whole world and thought about how lucky he was. Not blessed, not destined, lucky. Because luck was honest. Luck admitted that life was chaos and coincidence and choosing to make something good out of random chance. And that's what they'd done. Taken a broken mechanic, a lost CEO, and a grieving kid, and built something that worked. That night, Olivia pulled out the old yearbook, the one Daniel had looked through trying to find her. "Can I see it?" she asked. He handed it over, and she flipped to her junior photo. "I look so young." "You were young." "I had no idea who I was, just performing, being who everyone expected. And now?" She closed the book. "Now I know exactly who I am. Your wife. Emma's mom. Someone who shows up, that's enough." Daniel kissed her forehead. "That's everything." Lo bomam go oshimekis. The years that followed weren't perfect. Emma hit middle school and became a teenager who tested every boundary. Murphy ate something he shouldn't have and cost them a fortune in vet bills. The garage had a slow year and money got tight. Olivia's grief program expanded and she had to hire staff and learn to delegate all over again. But they handled it, together, the way families do. And on quiet nights when Emma was asleep and Murphy was snoring and the house was finally still, Daniel and Olivia would sit on the back porch and talk about everything and nothing. About the past they couldn't change and the future they were building. About how strange it was that a broken car on a mountain road had led to this. A life neither of them had planned, but both of them had chosen. "Do you think we would have found each other eventually?" Olivia asked one night. "If I hadn't broken down on that road?" "I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not." Do you believe in fate? I believe in showing up. The rest is just life happening. That's not very romantic. It's honest. We didn't get here because the universe willed it. We got here because we both chose to stay when leaving would have been easier. Olivia leaned against him. I'm glad we stayed. Me too. And really, that was the whole story. Not about second chances or redemption or finding yourself. About two broken people choosing each other. About a kid learning to trust again. About building a family from scratch and making it work through sheer stubborn will and daily choice. There was no grand lesson except this. Showing up matters. Being present matters. Choosing love over fear, connection over isolation, messy reality over perfect fantasy. That's what builds a life worth living. Daniel Hayes, mechanic and father and husband, had learned that the hard way. So had Olivia Grant, former CEO and current mom, and forever work in progress. And Emma was learning it too, one imperfect day at a time. They were a family, loud and messy and real, built from loss and choice and the daily decision to keep going. And if that wasn't success, Daniel didn't know what was.